bringing this to early learning centres. As someone who has worked at many centres and has been in touch with many families, because we work on these lessons.
If you're just joining us, you're continuing to watch the latest out of Cumberland City Council in Sydney, where they're continuing to discuss, and they will eventually vote on the possibility of overturning that controversial and nationwide known same-sex parents book ban at the council-run libraries. You're seeing now one public gallery speaker is speaking back and forth with Steve Christou, one of the councillors who brought this motion. Christou, of course, from our local community, and they're having these discussions ongoing as it stands. This is a live feed from Cumberland City Council. We know there are some protests outside, which we hope to be able to cut to eventually. But again, in the meantime, take a look, and we'll continue with our coverage of this. Again, you are watching live. This is Cumberland City Council, and we expect a vote on that sometime soon, but they're talking with the public at the moment. Please listen in.
5 minutes, please cool down.
Come back in 5 minutes, brother.
Councillors, I might indicate, Councillor Christou, that if you ask a question, the rules allow a speaker 2 minutes to answer it.
I haven't said anything.
I know, but you are going to ask... Councillor, I'm telling you something. Can you please understand that every question you ask may provide a speaker with another 2 minutes?
Thank you, Teacher Lake.
And so, yes, thank you, Councillor.
Mr Gray,
Just know that.
I'll just bring you up to speed, okay, because I am an elected representative of this area, of the complaints I get, and I do represent my local community, okay? This is not the first time I've received complaints about books being placed in the inappropriate question. In September of last year, I also received complaints about another book, which I dealt with privately behind the scenes at the time. And
Please don't debate. We will do that in due course,
there was another
Councillor
book,
Christou.
okay?
Please just ask a question.
Telling children about that it's okay not to have a gender.
Just ask
okay?
a question.
All parents are saying, do you think it's okay that these residents shouldn't be advocated for?
I'm happy to provide you assistance with developing a lesson plan on what a question is, Councillor Christou. But I would also suggest, to be quite honest, that you don't represent your community. I would say, listening to the media, whereby you go off about mosques, where you go off about vaccines, where you go off about drag, and where you put motion after motion that seems to have nothing to do with people here, whatever their religion, whatever their ethnicity. See comments about the idea that it's cumbersome for people to pray and that it interrupts your time, right? You know, this kind of stuff. I can't really speak to how serious you are as a representative, which is what you're asking me. All I see is what's in the media, and honestly, that doesn't paint the picture that perhaps you would like me to respond with. I would say that most librarians as well are more than adequate in deciding how to respond to these complaints. I actually trust the people who work for local government. They're the people in the same union as me who I'm going to stand by on a picket line, to be honest, when hostile councillors and management try to interfere in their workplace conditions. We are not going to let you tell us how to do our jobs. We are not going to let you make us breach the law.
All right, and I will not have you
Councillor.
insult my community tonight, whether they be Islamic, Christian or Orthodox.
Is that a question, councillor?
I'm done.
Thank you. That's enough. Thank you, Mr. Gray. Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
No, I don't think so. Thank you. We're now up to Mrs. Wheeler. Can I ask everyone again not to interrupt? I'm going to have a long night asking you to leave if you keep yelling, please. No, I don't think you need one now. Mrs. Wheeler, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillors, my name's Danielle Wheeler. I'm currently an elected councillor on Hawkesbury City Council, where we have actively incorporated inclusive measures for LGBTI plus people, and I'm happy to take questions on the outcomes of that. I'm speaking tonight as a ratepayer and part-time resident of the Cumberland LGA. I've been a ratepayer in Granville since 1995. I'm a lifelong Western Sydney resident. I've never been ashamed of that until your council meeting 2 weeks ago. Western Sydney has been tainted by your decision. a region celebrated and proud of its multiculturalism, diversity and tolerance, is now being presented as intolerant. I used to hold Cumberland Council up as a beacon of inclusiveness. I can't do that anymore. When my rates notice arrives, the envelope has your 3-word slogan: welcome, belong, succeed. It's on the wall in this chamber. Clearly that belonging is selective for some of you. You've made your council look hypocritical. My husband and I own a heritage-listed property in Granville. It was our family home. It's a fantastic community, really generous and welcoming. The best community I've ever lived in. My husband is a man, thank you. That's what husband means. It means a man. The best tenants we've ever had, be quiet. The best tenants we have ever had were a same-sex couple.
Okay. I'm going
It was
to
not
say
a threat.
I'm going to say it one more time.
What threat did I make?
I'm having complaints from the. I'm having complaints about yelling from the front row. If you feel the need to yell, I will ask you now to please leave. If you stay, I'm going to assume that you are quite capable of sitting in silence. I am not going to ask you again. I'm just going to point and somebody is going to ask you to leave. Please be quiet and let Mrs. Wheeler continue with her speech. Thank you.
2 women and their little girl. Your resolution excludes those families and it makes them feel like they don't belong in Cumberland. It means they don't want to live here. That's bad for them, it's bad for their children, it's bad for ratepayers, it's bad for landlords like me. And it's well beyond your remit as councillors. Councillors have claimed that this resolution was made to protect children. That's clearly nonsense. There's clear scientific evidence that children do best in homes where they're loved, with stable parental relationships, more so where parents are married, and that includes same-sex marriages. Your motion has created unrest, which is really bad for kids. Further, you've condemned and demeaned the legal, consenting and loving relationships of LGBTI plus couples. The ABS states LGBTI communities often experience stigma, discrimination, bullying, violence and exclusion. As a result, a higher number of them experience poorer social, emotional, psychological well-being and mental health. This may lead to issues with work, relationships, finances, housing and other elements of life. Cumberland Council has stigmatised, discriminated and excluded through your resolution. You are not keeping kids safe, you are actively harming them and creating the division that you hear outside. It's revolting. Go and stand in it. People are throwing rocks. People who purport to be good, tolerant Christians are throwing rocks at queer members of this community. You are engaging in censorship.
Wheeler, I just need an extension of time. Move Councillor Saha, seconded Councillor Elmore. All those in favour, declare that carried. Please continue.
You are engaging in censorship. Cumberland Council has welcomed wave after wave of refugees and migrants, including people who have fled regimes that have banned books and censored public access. They deserve better than this here. Leave librarians to determine your book collections. Leave your librarians to determine what is an adult book and what is a kid's book, and leave parents to supervise their children. Use the Dewey's Decimal System, the system used by ALIA, the Australian Library Information Service, to determine which part of the library you put books in. Stop confusing sex with parenting. It's creepy. It reflects really badly on you. It reflects badly on all of us. Rescind this motion and let this community do what we do best, provide a welcoming home and sense of belonging for everyone.
Councillor Garrett would like to ask you a question if you'd like to stay.
Certainly.
Thank you, Councillor Garrett.
Ms Wheeler, your belief that this issue breaks your opinion of Cumberland being a beacon of inclusiveness, I'd ask you, are you aware, on page 14 of tonight's minutes, where the Labor Party, to a man and woman, voted against congratulating the Falun-Duffer community last week, or last fortnight? They only asked for a congratulations on the establishment of their foundation, but there was no inclusiveness there. yet you say that we are the beacon, which breaks this beacon. Well, I'm asking you, are you aware of these previous actions?
I'm not aware of the actions of the Labor Party. I'm not a member of the Labor Party.
Thank you, Mrs. Webb. Thank you. I have Mr. Frank Webb, who'd now like to speak.
Another member of the Labor Party. The beacon got broken last week.
Thank you, and thanks for the opportunity to address the council. I'm a long-term resident in Western Sydney. In fact, I was born here and grew up in Merrylands, and I'm 71 years old. And I've had a terrific life here, and I love this place. But when I was a kid, Western Sydney was a chip you had on your shoulder, and people would look at you and go, "Oh, Western Sydney, you know, what's that?" But so we've grown. We've grown. We've had fantastic councillors. We've had fantastic councillors like Tony. He just an amazing man. Tony Bleasdale out in Blacktown. I've spent lots of time, had lots of beers with him over games and watching football games. But I saw what happened the other week, and I see this man down here, these two actually, who are very divisive people. Here we are, belong, welcome, succeed. That's what our suburb is all about. It's not about being divisive. I have Muslim friends who are really great guys. And look, I respect their religion, and I respect all religions. That's your own choice, what religion you choose to have. And how you choose to raise your children is really important. Whether it's a same-sex family or a heterosexual family, it doesn't matter. Children go where there's excitement, but they stay where there's love. And where that love is, they're happy. Where there's not that love and where there's divisiveness, families break down. You end up with divorce. You end up with marriages breaking down. And that is really disruptive for children. And what we're doing is by taking these books out of the library, we're creating a really bad example. And I would suggest that you read Fahrenheit 541. It's a big book. It's probably a bit bigger than this one, and it would take you a lot longer. But it's an excellent book, and it gives you a real insight into what happens when societies break down and books aren't available. And you're also, one point I will make, this is really quite horrendous. You're actually, here we go, contravening a whole lot of legal, haven't got it. You're actually contravening a whole lot of laws in Australia on equal rights and freedom of choice, and you're also cutting across the libraries and the library's right to put books in based on their rules and their rules that they're given by society and that come to them through community. So look, I cannot speak so hardly. Rescind this motion. At the moment, Cumberland is just being seen as a pariah. You can see it out there. You can see what's happened. You can see how it's being seen around the place. It's disgraceful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Campbell. Thank you. There's no questions.
No questions.
Councillor Garrard has now pushed a button. Mr. Webb. Sorry, Councillor Garrard wishes to ask you a question.
Mr. Webb, since you decided to single out people, are you aware that probably 99.9% of people in this chamber have already indicated that they are willing to support a rescission motion? Are you aware of that?
Yes, I am.
Well, there you go.
And I will make this point, that was only because of the community activity that came to this council and because it was brought to the attention, and the people like Carolyn Staples got out there and put a petition together.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Webb.
It means you're not informed.
Thank you.
Sorry, one more thing. The cost of tonight, all these security, police, everything, thank you, Mr. Christou. Let's see a separate line for that in the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Webb. Mr. Campbell. I've let Mr. Webb sat down now. We'll keep going. I'm sorry, I can't hear. I can hear you from here. I can hear you from here. Can you please leave for 5 minutes and come back? Good idea. That's a great idea. Councillor Christou wishes to just ask you a question, Mr Webb.
Mr Webb, my question to you is, there's been a multitude of...
Madam Mayor, that woman has walked past here and abused members of the gallery.
Thank you.
Caused them and called them appalling names.
Thanks, Mrs Wheeler. I'm aware of that and I've asked her to leave. Mr Webb, please.
Mr Webb, my question to you is, and I'll just outline it, okay? Cumberland has suffered a multitude of problems, okay? So I want to understand from you, and I will ask my question, in the space of 3 years, the Labor Party councillors have raised rates on residents, have doubled building application fees on mums and dads wanting to build their home.
How am I going to answer a question on that?
No, Councillor Elmer was given latitude. This
is just an ad. This is you doing more publicity to promote yourself.
All right, because you don't...
Councillor Christou, we know that
no,
speech.
Madam Mayor,
We've heard it before.
There's been increases... Let me finish. Councillor Elmer, there's been increases in childcare, doubling of small business food inspection fees, but none of...
You increased those last month.
Mr Webb, none of those issues have got you on your feet and into the chamber tonight, where people are struggling through a cost of living crisis, struggling to pay their mortgage, rent, bills and put food on the table to feed their children. None of those important issues, but the issue that gets you in tonight is residents telling you a book should be in the 18-year-old section of the library.
I'm not hearing
a question. Is that the question?
Well, if you read the book, you would realise that it was not to be in the 18-year-old section. And maybe if you read it to your child, you might learn a bit from it. On page 16, it says, some people can be most unkind.
And that's you.
Thanks, Mr Webb. Where is he? Former Councillor George Campbell. I know he's here somewhere. There he is. Thank you, former Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor. First they came for the communists and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialists and I didn't speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists and I didn't speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews and I didn't speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me and there was no one left to speak out for me. That's a quote from a Christian minister in Nazi Germany who supported the Nazis until he fell out with them and he was thrown in jail, and he wrote that after the war. The motion about banning books from Cumberland libraries was not simply about books. It was about vilifying, insulting and humiliating members of our community. It was about denying their right to feel safe and accepted. It was not about upholding family and religious values as claimed. It sought to deny that same-sex parents subscribe to family and religious values. It implied that there is only one model of a family, when in our community that is not true. The motion was yet another attempt to divide our community, to seek political advantage by pitting some against others, to declare that some people are not legitimate members of the community because they are different. The fact is that we are a diverse, pluralist, inclusive community. We celebrate that throughout the year. We are all members of minorities. Majorities are made up of minorities. If one minority is singled out for the hate treatment, others become vulnerable. On Cumberland Council, we have seen the haters turn on a councillor with children, implying that good mothers stay out of the way. At other times, they have spat their venom at Muslims. We are all potentially vulnerable to being vilified in one way or another. When the bigots turn on you and the vulnerable minority you identify with, who will defend you? Those who threw you under the bus? Or turned your back on? Or who you turned your back on? Not so long ago, single mothers were a target in this country. So were working mothers, divorcees, so-called broken families. I'll repeat that, divorcees and broken families. Should they be regarded as not having any family values? My own family has been subjected to a nasty campaign by self-righteous zealots because I was a single father. My daughter and her friend were mocked at school because they lived with their fathers, not their mothers. History teaches us that we are more secure when we stand together and refuse to be picked off. The supporters of the book ban avoid defining family values. Do loving relationships not exist in a broad range of families? Who has the right to say they don't? We should always be suspicious of anyone who claims religious legitimacy for their political views. Genuinely religious people know that the mixing of religion and politics brings both into disrepute and do not want to be cynically used for political purposes.
Councillor Elmore, those in favour, declare that carried. Please continue, Mr Campbell.
History shows us that it can lead to enormous suffering. When the Gallipoli Mosque was attacked, we all rallied around in support. We were all Muslims. We didn't say, not my problem, I'm not a Muslim. When the Bhatia Mandir temple in Regent's Park was vandalised, we were all Hindus in support. When the Ukrainian Orthodox Church in Lidcombe was vandalised, again, we showed our support. We recognised that an attack on one was an attack on all. Our community strength lies in its ability for empathy and solidarity. This council must demonstrate that it supports the community's diversity, that it stands for social cohesion, respect and mutual assistance. Council must reject the cynical politics of the rogue councillors who have brought this council into disrepute and made it a national laughingstock. Council must accept the criticism of the state government and not put our libraries' funding into jeopardy. Bigots are free to think what they like, but shouldn't be allowed to force their views down other people's throats, not even to satisfy their craving for narcissistic political notoriety. They absolutely should not be in charge of censorship. Libraries belong to the whole community and should serve us all, providing a range of materials, most of which is of interest to some of us, but not all. I support the rescission. Thank you.
Did you wish to ask a question of Mr Campbell? Former Councillor Campbell, I'm sorry, are you happy to take a question from Councillor Sarkis?
It depends what it is, Mayor.
Well, Councillor Campbell, you started off by saying I'm not a communist, I'm not a socialist, I'm not a unionist, but you're all of those, aren't you?
I was reading a poem, Councillor Sarkis.
Too literate.
What I am or what I am not is not at issue this evening. Thank you. Any sensible questions?
Don't think so. I've got Ms Jessica Ann Marr, please. Jessica? Hello, Jessica.
Hi. Okay, so I hope this is okay for the gallery. I've lived in Auburn on and off for 4 years. So my partner, who's a man, which is not relevant, but whatever. Basically, we wanted to say that we chose to build our lives here because of the community we found and how much we loved the area. After many years in different areas of Sydney, we chose to make Auburn our home for exactly the reasons: community, convenience and choice. We love this community's diversity and are very proud to live here. Auburn is a place where everyone should not just feel safe, but also accepted and celebrated for who they truly are. My partner and I strongly object to this ban. Yes, this is a diverse community and we need to respect the rights and freedoms of all, but banning knowledge is diabolical. I respect freedom of religion, but Australia is a secular society. We have no standardised religion and everyone is encouraged to follow the faith they want, as they should. The council was elected to govern by our laws, not preach. Do not put your own values above the needs of this community, opening this council and ratepayers like myself to lawsuits. This order is bullying, it is censorship, and it deserves to be called out. If you don't like a book, don't read it. We love Auburn, but this action has embarrassed myself and my partner. Do better and focus on what we need, which is better parking in Auburn, more affordable housing and better infrastructure. Thank you for allowing me the time to address the council.
Thank you very much, Ms Marr.
I'm happy to answer questions, but I'm not affiliated with the Labor Party. I'm just here because we want to be here and we want to say Auburn's great. So.
I don't have anybody who wishes to ask you a question. Perhaps that's because you're not in the Labor Party. Ms Crowley, please.
Am I tall enough? Oh, there we go. Okay. I've got a question first. How many of you have children? Put your hands up if you've got children. All right. Some of you have children. Cool. Okay. My soon-to-be wife and I have a daughter. She's 6 months old and she was created via IVF. We're here because despite living in a community with such multiculturalism, I feel this council is very quick to discriminate and censor people with whom they are uncomfortable. This council voted to have all same-sex parents' books and materials banned from shelves based off one book, without even reading said book, yet stated it was sexual, because there was 2 men hugging their child on the front cover. That children shouldn't think about these issues. This isn't the 1960s, councillors. We are out, we are loud, and we are proud. You believe this book is sexualizing children. How? If you bother to read it, it speaks about how all families are okay if there is love. It preaches that despite what some people may think, every family is perfect, irrespective of who their parents are. Is this not vital in our day and age? Does my daughter not deserve to be represented? When she's 6 or 7 and wants to get a book about her family, does she not deserve to have them in the kids section? After all, the book in question is designed for 6 to 7-year-olds. Here are 4 other books I've found. I've got them down there if you'd like to read them, that have families on the front covers. Now, you wouldn't say they're sexual or distressing, would you? Because they've got families on the front. Because these have conventional families represented. So therefore, the only conclusion that I get from this is that you're sexualizing different family dynamics. It is disgusting that in 2024, I have to stand here and fight against my daughter being discriminated against. I have to stand here and fight for her, knowing if I don't, she may grow up thinking there's something wrong with her because books about her family are banned. Having 2 mums or 2 dads or anything in between is not distressing. What is distressing is learning I can't trust my councillors with my family's safety. That I can't trust them to be looking towards making this area better for future generations. Voting yes is saying my family is wrong, disgusting, and innately sexual. Voting yes says you care more about lining your pockets than the families within your area that you sworn to protect and serve. Instead of censoring our libraries and discriminating against us, if parents aren't comfortable with their children seeing or reading certain books, they can simply do their job as parents and say they can't read them. Steer them away. They are the parents. They choose what their children read and know about. But they do not decide that for everyone. They do not decide what people other than their children can and cannot read. You want your child to be represented, loved and accepted.
Riley, I just need an extension of time motion. Councillor Elmore, seconded Councillor Saar.
Thank you.
All those in favour. Please continue. Thank you.
They do not decide what people other than their children can and cannot read. You want your child to be represented, loved and accepted. Why can't my daughter feel the same? Why can't my family feel the same? This can end with this council voting to reverse the ban and let kids' books be in the kids' section. If it doesn't, this issue will not go away. There is a nation outside of these council doors horrified by this council's actions and ready to stand and fight against it. Each of you choose how this plays out. Each of you choose if this council area thrives or dies. Make the right choice.
Thank you, Ms. Crowley. I don't have any questions. Ms. Thomas, please. Ms. Julie Thomas.
Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Christou.
I've got this.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, Madam Mayor, the community are here tonight. I'm
Yes.
asking you to adjudicate this meeting fairly.
Yes.
Now, you've already... you've already asked 2 people to leave this chamber tonight based on an interjection. However, from the other side of the chamber, Madam Mayor, we've had someone tell a councillor to get effed, and you've just had someone give the other side the middle finger. And here you are, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, you're not ejecting one side of the chamber. I asked you to rule fairly, Madam Mayor.
You're our mayor. Shame on you. You're our mayor too.
So I was interrupted. I'm sorry, Councillor Christou. What is it that you are asking of
Madam
me?
Mayor, I'm asking you, in fairness to the gallery and in fairness to everybody here, that you adjudicate and rule this meeting fairly. Now, tonight, Madam Mayor, you've ejected 2 members of the gallery for interjecting, Madam Mayor. Yet you're 3 members. Yet you've allowed other members of the gallery to tell a councillor to get effed, give the finger to a certain section of the crowd. So I'm asking you to ask that person of the gallery to leave and rule this meeting accordingly. You're here to represent everybody.
Thank you, Councillor Christou.
I am quite comfortable to take a 5-minute break if that is what Chairman
pardon me.
adds.
Just pardon me. I do ask that people show respect to each other. That includes the Speaker, and I do appreciate that when people interrupt and you want them to be quiet, that creates a response in you that perhaps isn't appropriate. I'd ask you to apologise. Thank you. And
thank you.
And excuse me. Thank you. I have the chair. I don't need any assistance in chairing this meeting from all of you. No, I don't. I'm sorry. I didn't hear a person swearing at another person. But if they did, excuse me, if they did, that is unacceptable in this chamber. That is unacceptable in this chamber. If there is any swearing, gallery, I actually have the power to ask you all to leave. And I'll just remind you all that collectively you are responsible for being allowed to stay here. Can I ask you all to be quiet? I accept Miss Crowley's apology. Might be a good idea if Miss Crowley has a short break and comes back. And I would ask Miss Thomas, hello Miss Thomas, to now address us. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm a local, I come from Greystanes. My initial reaction to the book ban was sort of anger, really, and a bit of shock, because this is a diverse, multicultural and largely harmonious, and I thought, tolerant community. And I was astounded that a secular council would jeopardise that by making such a divisive decision. My considered reaction is that it has the potential in ramifications which are huge, including widespread negative publicity, which we've already seen for Cumberland, for possible breaches of various laws regarding discrimination and possibly not complying with the library funding guidelines, therefore depriving all ratepayers of resources. What I'd like to do is offer some food for thought. What is the point of having a library committee, of which I am a member, if such a huge decision is made without consulting it for a response? I don't believe that an urgent response for this was required because the book was already off the shelves. What's the point of employing qualified and experienced librarians if their skills and expertise in obtaining items for the library aren't trusted? They do actually keep up to date. They're across all sorts of issues. If the Commonwealth and state censors haven't banned a book, what authority does the council have? How many complaints are necessary to ban a book? What topics and themes are too offensive to be on the shelves, and who decides what they are? Is a book's innocuous cover enough to determine its offensiveness? Does a book have to be read by the person who complains? Does a researched case, perhaps written, need to be submitted to anyone to consider its relative merits? If the offensive topic is sex, then has anyone considered how many empty shelves there will be? If the offensive topic is rainbow families, has anyone considered how disrespectful this is to those families living in Cumberland? Has anyone considered that same-sex marriage is legal and so are same-sex families? Do we really want to deny those parents and their children the opportunity to access books reflecting their lives? Might other families benefit from seeing that Not all families are the same, and they are no less loving, caring and decent and deserving of respect and to feel safe. Are we underestimating the parents in our community and their ability to curate their children's borrowing? Has anyone considered advising residents to simply choose not to borrow a book? This would be a simple and effective and non-controversial solution.
And if you're just joining us now, you are continuing to watch live coverage of this Cumberland City Council meeting as they continue to discuss the proposal to overturn the ban on books featuring same-sex parents from council libraries. There is ongoing discussion from the public gallery. It has been heated all night. Councillor Steve Christou of our local community especially has been the target of many comments from the public, and he's firing back as well. So it is getting a bit heated there. There's protests continuing outside as well. We expect the vote, well, it's whenever these speakers end, and as you can see there's still a few more to go. This is the live feed from the Cumberland City Council website. Julie Thomas is the current public speaker. Let's listen back into it now.
Writer of age-appropriate books on various topics, and might I add, has offered a free download of this book. So thanks to us, now thousands and thousands and thousands of copies have been downloaded and read. There have been claims that 60% of Cumberland residents have conservative values. When was such a survey conducted? Because I missed my opportunity to have a say, and I'd like to see the evidence. I would recommend that the council rescinds this decision. Thank you. If you have any questions.
Thank you, Ms Thomas. No questions. Thank you, Ms Thomas. Thank you for your work on the Library Committee too. Ms Zoe Coolan-Glenn, please. Thank you.
Good evening, councillors, Madam Mayor, everyone else today. I want to acknowledge first off that we're on unceded Darug land, and I also want to thank all the speakers so far tonight for their varied and considered responses to this ban. I'm going to speak quickly, I'm going to speak angrily. My name is Zoe Connellan-Glenn. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a trans lesbian and I'm a resident of Lidcombe. And I want to be very clear that this motion is disgusting and has no place in our community. My partner, MJ, and I moved to Lidcombe for work. I'm a teacher. I work with kids every day that I work. Kids are smart. If I didn't believe that, I wouldn't be a good teacher. Kids understand very early on if there is something different about them. I certainly did. And it took until my early teens to realize that that difference was that I was queer, and until my early 20s to realize that I was trans. If I had had, growing up, resources freely available to me in public libraries, which set out in simple and clear and non-judgmental language, queer people exist, they are normal, we are normal, then I could have saved myself an awful lot of pain. I understand that there are people in this room who will hear that and think, oh, she wants to push her agenda on kids. Oh, she's recruiting, or more loaded, darker words that I'm not going to repeat here. But there are always going to be kids who know they are different. And I would not be able to live with myself as an educator if I stood by and allowed these kids to be abandoned by our community. Queer kids become queer adults. Every child in Lidcombe or Marylands or in Newtown or in Marrickville deserves to grow up in a world where their lives and their families' lives are not the subject of a culture war. Mr. Christou and the councillors who voted for this ban, I understand you made this decision believing you were protecting children. I have my doubts as to how sincere this belief is, but I know this ban will have the opposite effect, and I believe you know that as well. I call on the council to rethink this motion. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for sharing that with us. Appreciate that speech. Thank you. Ms. Ellen Hrebenjuk. I'm sorry, I had trouble with that one.
It's Ellen Hrebenjuk. It is a Ukrainian name.
Thank you, thank you.
I am a local resident. I am a long-term church member in this area, and I am a librarian, though not in the public sector. I've come to speak in support of my public library colleagues. It seems to me this censorship issue has arisen partly because councillors and the public don't know how libraries buy books, so I'll give you a quick outline. Every library has a collection development policy which sets the overall aims and direction for future purchases. It is written so we meet the needs of our community while following all relevant laws, regulations and guidelines and the policies of our organisation. It's only after you've understood that collection development policy that you can start looking at the library itself. What do we need more or less of right now? What areas need an update? How do we divide up the budget? Then you start looking at what the publishers actually have available, and only then do you start ordering. We don't just pop out to a shop and buy a couple of things. Cumberland Library staff know their community and their collection well, and the collection reflects and supports the whole community, just as councillors are supposed to serve their whole community, not just a convenient part of it. You will all know by now our council's decision violates the Library Council guideline on access to information in New South Wales public libraries. Who here has read it, that guideline, in the last couple of weeks? Thank you for your interest. I'm glad to see that. There is a rule in it that public libraries must strictly observe laws which may ban or restrict access to certain material. This relates to our National Classification Scheme, a federal agreement with states and territories. So if you want to talk to an elected representative about censorship, go to your MP and not a councillor. The guidelines also say library materials should not be excluded from a public library on moral, political, racial, religious, sexist, language or other grounds. Our self-appointed censors banned all same-sex parenting books from our library, and now they've been called out. Some of them just want compromise, hiding a 24-page children's book with 2 sentences on each page in the adults section. No, that's called soft censorship. It's also against the guideline. And this is all political overreach into the everyday work of our trusted, qualified library staff who councillors should be supporting instead of micromanaging. Councillors, I shouldn't have to urge you to be temperate in your language, but in the US right now, there are library staff suffering death threats and assaults because unstable people have heard incendiary messaging. If Cumberland City Library staff cop any abuse over this, it will be your fault. It is hard to believe that Cumberland residents can be enthusiastic about politicians choosing what they can read. We already know that story.
Please, Councillor Elmore, seconded. Councillor Faruqi, all those in favour, declare that carried. Please continue.
To be enthusiastic about politicians choosing what you can read, we already know that story. It's part of the story of how we came to be Australians. It's my family story too. Many of us have relatives who've come from countries where the government decided what we were allowed to know, what we were allowed to think. If we dared to be different, the government decided whether we were even allowed to live. Our people left those places and they came here to be free. We're not going back.
Thank you, Ms. Rebenyuk. Thank you. Mr. Craig Kelly. Thanks, Mr. Kelly.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and councillors. I'd also like to acknowledge the many religious leaders that are here tonight in the gallery. Madam Mayor, I am a great believer in free speech. Our history has shown that the idea of banning books throughout history has been abhorrent. Those that have banned books throughout history have always been on the wrong side. We have seen too much censorship in this nation over the last several years, especially with the COVID period. We must allow alternate and dissenting voices to have their say. I believe, Madam Mayor, one of the greatest phrases or quotes was that of President John F. Kennedy when he said, "We are not afraid to entrust the American people with unpleasant facts, foreign ideas, alien philosophies, and competitive values. For a nation that is afraid to let its people judge the truth and falsehood in an open market is a nation that is afraid of its people." So normally, Madam Mayor, I would be here and I'd be strongly against censorship. But there is one exception. And that exception is when it comes to children. This book was in the children's section. When it comes to issues such as that, it must be a parent's right to decide how they will bring up their children. If they want their children to read that book, as I think many speakers have said, and I appreciate the passion of many speakers on my left here tonight. They said it is available to be downloaded for free. It should be the parent's choice, Madam Mayor. If this book was in the general section, I'm sure very few of us here tonight would have any objection. It is the fact that it was in the children's section that is the particular issue. And on that, Madam Mayor, I encourage that this ban should continue in the children's section, but if it was to be put in the general library, I'm sure, Madam Mayor, that most of us would agree to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. So I've got Mr. Rafik Zayi, is that right? Mr. Rafik Zayi, thank you.
Thank you for your time. The matter is about right decision and wrong decision. The decision that the book was in children section for 2 years, 2 or 5, so we as Mr. Chris stand, and I respect his courage, his leadership, that he stands for the community, advocating the community's concern, that's the community's concern. And we have values and belief, and we are not against anybody. We say that this decision is wrong. So the wrong thing that the community outside and inside and everybody says that, look, we as a community, young, old, everybody, has a moral obligation and duty of care to protect children from anything that the parents believe it's wrong. And how many of you guys do you agree that this book should be there? Nobody. So as a community, I have a duty of care to say that, look, this value, this decision is wrong. We are not against anybody. We are wrong about this book should be in children's section. That's all. Apart from that, we here have absolutely a clear message that we are against this decision, that this book should be there. This book should be not there for children. That's all I want. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zayi. And our final speaker for the evening, lucky last, Alexa Kapust. Ms. Kapust, thank you.
Kapust.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Alexa, and I have lived in Cumberland my whole life. I'm here to represent a very real part of your community, that is the LGBTIQ+ community. It includes my brother, his partner, my sister-in-laws, my friends, and my colleagues. In the past, I have been so proud to live in this community. I felt safe amongst my diverse neighbours. While I am no stranger to religious beliefs around LGBTIQ+ groups, I came to know I am safe and an equal part of the community, the same way that I hope my neighbours know that while I may not hold their religious beliefs, I would protect and stand up for them. This is how I grew up. Many cultures, one community, the slogan for Auburn Council before it became Cumberland. My daughter is 4, and I have another child on the way. I knew I wanted to stay in Cumberland to have a family because I wanted my children to have the same values around community as me, the values I thought Cumberland upheld. In the last year, she has started to love going to the local library. Amongst fairy and unicorn books, she has picked books about religions and children around the world. I am proud she has an interest in understanding those who live around her and that she has developed language to speak positively about who and what she sees, including her daycare friends and their family. They may believe different things, but we respect their ability to do so, and we treat them no differently. Amazingly, when we go to the library, the books in the children's section are appropriate for her because they are grouped by her age. I do not have to worry about her being indoctrinated into various religions. And when she does pick up a book with gay or straight parents, I don't have to worry about it being sexual because it's a kid's book in the kids section. This is something the council would have noticed if they even bothered to flick through the book that prompted this ban. Even so, the great thing about being a parent is that if my daughter were to come across information I did not agree with, I am there to support her understanding of what she is seeing. Banning any material I do not agree with only shelters my child and denies me the opportunity to engage with her about our family and the beliefs we uphold. Last week, children just like my daughter were exposed to the news that books about same-sex parents were banned, and parents had to contextualise that. Kids were exposed to the fact that their council, or even just a council in Australia, has banned books simply for showing parents that looked like theirs, that looked like their uncles, that looked like their aunts, their family friends, their neighbours, or their friends' parents. The message was clear. We are not welcome. That even just a photo or mention of our existence is too much for our community. As an adult, I felt as though I was transported back to my teen years when media was more frequently debating my existence. I felt...
Declare that carried. Thank you.
I felt rejected by the community that I love, and my existence was suddenly a harm and risk to children. My brother, who could not be here tonight, said that he loves this community, but last week he felt like it didn't love him back. That hurt that I felt was not just for the LGBTIQ+ community, I felt it for the rest of Cumberland. My neighbours who were born overseas and those who were religious were suddenly pigeonholed as bigots, as a member of our council went to the media claiming he was representing them and that they were different to the rest of Sydney and Australia. I started to wonder if people in my community who were born overseas or are religious look at me and are afraid that I might see them differently, the same way I fear they may see me as other. Your decision affects how our community sees each other and the rest of the Sydney and Australia sees us. Our reputation has been tarnished and we have to work to build trust in one another. The first step to bringing our community back together is to reverse this ban. At the end of the day, you can ban a book with same-sex parents, but this won't stop me, my family, our friends from being seen by your kids at the local park, at the shops, at school pickup, or even next door. We are nurses and doctors, shopkeepers. We are teachers and coaches. We are your neighbours. If you want to shelter children from the image of same-sex parents, you will have to ban us from your community too.
Thank you very much. That ends public forum. I have a hand, Councillor.
Mayor, before you move on, Mayor, Councillor Juan and I are experiencing IT difficulties. Can you hear us?
Yes, perfectly. Can you not?
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Can you not hear us?
We can hear you now.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Wong.
Madam Mayor, I would like to move that in accordance with clause 8.2 of the Code meeting practice, that Council alter the order of business to have item CO5/24-522 status update on Council resolution, CO5/24-506 adoption of library strategy 2024 to 2027 post exhibition within general business to be brought forward for consideration this time of the meeting.
Thank you. I have a seconder, Councillor Faruqi. I'm in the middle of a resolution, Councillor Christou. After the resolution?
Well, it's important because I wanted to ask, given the speakers that spoke tonight, maybe if one of the religious leaders, if they wanted to speak,
Councillor Christou, we have registered speakers and we've finished public
Madam Mayor,
forum.
we've sat here for 2 hours.
Councillor, I'm in the middle of a resolution. I really ask you to respect that. Can I have a vote, please? All those in favour?
I move it as a motion, Madam Mayor, that we ask if the religious leaders want to speak.
Declare that.
I move it as a motion, Madam Mayor.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry, Councillor Christou.
I move it as a motion.
No, Councillor Christou. Please take a seat. We're out of public forum now. There were people from...
That's right.
There were many people who did not get an opportunity to speak. I can't choose now. I can't. That would be unfair.
Well, I'd like to put it on record that I find it most disrespectful, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Christou.
I want it on record, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
I want it noted.
Yes,
that I find it most disrespectful.
I'm happy to note that, councillors. I need to. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Gentlemen, I'm sorry. You're going to have to leave. Please, no, sir. Sir, you're going to have to leave. I'm sorry. I can't. I'm in the middle of now. Look, gallery, you have to allow me to do my work. I'm now in the middle of a resolution. Thank you. So do people understand? Councillor Wong and Councillor Faruqi have moved a resolution. All those in favour? The resolution to bring the matter forward. All those in favour, declare that carried. Yes, Councillor Wong, you've got your hand up again.
Madam Mayor, I also like to move an urgency motion that as a result of the Minister's representation concerning funding and a request to reconsider Council's 1st of May 2024 resolution, we haste along with the intense public interest that Council urgently determine a motion to alter Council resolution filed by myself, Councillor Faruqi, Councillor Coleman and Councillor Elmore, and I'm sure if there's more time, more councillors will sign up to this, for the 5th of June 2024 Council meeting as attached to item CO5/24522 and as a further amendment below to alter the resolution of Council of 1st of May 2024 for item CO5/24506, adoption of library strategy 24 to 27, post-exhibition, minute 729, to read as follows. I have provided the wording to the council staff, and for the council staff, please put it on the screen.
It's on the screen. Thank you. Councillor Faruqi is going to second that. Can you read the replacement resolution that you're proposing, please, Councillor Wong?
Yeah. The motion will read as follows: that 1, Council adopt the library strategy 2024 to 27 as outlined in attachment 1. 2, that Council ensure that all books in the library are categorised and placed within library according to the Records of Libraries Australia (National Library of Australia). 3, in a rare event that a book is received by Council that requires a subjective decision by Council staff to give it a classification, the General Manager is to implement guidelines to assist our library staff to ensure that all books are placed in the appropriate section of the library.
So that's a resolution so that the gallery can follow and those who might be watching at home. The resolution is a motion to alter the council resolution that was moved at the last council meeting. And the council resolution that was moved at the last council meeting was that council adopt the library strategy 24-27 as outlined in attachment 1 of the report, subject to the following being undertaken: that council take immediate action to rid same-sex parents' books materials in council's library service. So that was the resolution that was moved at the last meeting on the 1st of May. What Councillor Huang is now proposing is that that resolution be replaced by an altered resolution that he has just read out there, that Council adopt the library strategy 24-27 as outlined in attachment 1. 2, that Council ensure that all books in the library are catalogued and placed within the library according to the Records of Libraries Australia, the National Library of Australia. And 3, in the rare event that a book is received by Council that requires a subjective decision by Council staff to give it a classification, the General Manager is to implement guidelines to assist our library staff to ensure that all books are placed in the appropriate sections of the library. So this is now the resolution that it is proposed to replace the resolution that was moved at the last council meeting. Councillor Wong, do you wish to address this resolution?
Mayor, before we go there,
Yes,
with the permission of Councillor Huang, can I just ask whether you can see that my hand is up, given the technical issues?
I can, yes.
You can, Mayor?
Yes.
I can't hear you, Mayor. Can you see that my hand is up?
Just take a seat, Councillor Garrard. I can see that your hand is up, Councillor Hamid. Can you hear me?
I can now. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Was your hand up for a purpose or just a test?
I wish to speak after the mover and the seconder of the motion, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Huang.
Madam Mayor, I
Oh,
understand
I
that
have a
this is
point of order. Councillor Huang. Councillor Garrard wishes to raise a matter. Yes, Councillor Garrard.
Are we now discussing the urgency? It is a matter of urgency that we have to make a decision on before we can do anything else.
Yes.
That's correct. Sorry, I'm under these circumstances. There's no doubt.
I'm only here to help.
Thank you, Councillor Garrett. There's no doubt in my mind that this is a matter of urgency. I'll put it to the council that we voted as a matter of urgency. All those in favour? Anyone opposed? I declare that carried unanimously. And now we can proceed. Thank you, Councillor Garrett. Appreciate. Councillor Huang. You can proceed with the debate.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I would like to thank all my councillor colleagues for agreeing to bring this matter forward for an urgent debate. I also want to thank all the speakers tonight for sharing your passion and your story. I also want to acknowledge the attendees who are presently in the chamber, those watching the proceeding online, and hundreds of thousands of individuals who have written to us and phoned us sharing your story. I am deeply moved by the personal stories and experience that you have shared with me. I also want to put on the record of my thanks to Caroline Staples, a proud resident of Regents Park Ward, for speaking up for many families who has without a voice. Cumberland is a vibrant multicultural area, home to over 245,000 residents from all over the world. More than half of our residents in Cumberland speaks a language other than English at home. We are truly a multicultural success story. Just looking around the chamber, at the councillors around the table, we have first-generation migrant people from different faith, cultural background, and people from different professional background. In Cumberland, no one should be discriminated against based on race, religion, or sexual orientation. No family should be discriminated against based on their composition. And no children should be made to feel like they do not belong. Unfortunately, at the last council meeting, we, as the local representative, collectively let our community down. We have tarnished the Cumberland Council's name and caused hurt and harm to many members of Cumberland community. I am pleading with my colleagues tonight to support my motion and reverse the wrong that was made at the last council meeting. This debate is not about whether you agree or disagree with same-sex marriage or same-sex parenting. The reality is that we have family members, friends, or neighbours who are in a same-sex relationship, that our rainbow family exists in this world. The book at the heart of this debate is not about sexualizing kids or radicalizing them to a woke agenda. It is about helping children to understand our world is diverse. It's okay to have two dads or mums. Every family is unique. Most importantly, it is for kids to know that all parents love their children regardless. It is a universal message that everyone can understand. I had many conversations with my colleagues over the past few days, and I want to say thank you all to those who are willing to engage over the past few days. We may disagree on certain issues, but fortunately, we can all agree that Australia is a country that does not ban books from libraries simply on the base of individual views. It is not who we are, and we should oppose any attempt to start ban books. Councillors, colleagues, let's correct the mistake made at the last meeting and once again tell the world, tell Australia that Cumberland is a place where everyone is welcome, belongs and can succeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wong. Councillor Faruqi.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to thank all the speakers who came here tonight and spoke very passionately about all the motions, particularly about this book banning. And a very special thanks to Ms. Caroline Staples for organizing this petition. And thanks to all the people who send me messages, emails, called me to express their concern. So, Mayor, I wasn't present in the last meeting to vote on this matter. I was on leave, I was overseas, and my leave was approved in April. So, Mayor, I spent most of my life in teaching, doing educational research, and publishing those research papers as means of education. So, as an educator and as a strong advocate for education, I just cannot support banning books from libraries. It cannot happen. So the center of this discussion is a book about same-sex parents. We have many same-sex parents in our community, and this book gives information to kids of those families or anyone who is interested about this reality. It teaches kids what it's like having same-sex parents, celebrating our differences, and teaches kids how to build a community. It's not about promoting the content of the book. It's about the education. It's about access to information. And it's about information on parenting. So a different example might help some people to understand the matter better. So as a teacher, I think that helps many people. I know many teachers are here. So this is a book, and this book is from one of our libraries, and this book is on hijab cover that I'm wearing now. All right, so this book, it talks about, I'll request people from the gallery not to make comments at this stage. Please listen to me with open heart and open mind. Please listen. All right, so this book talks about hijab, where someone wears it, but is it promoting the content of this book? No. Is the photo on the cover page sexualizing women? No. This is just an information. It's giving information and educating people who are interested to know about it. You need to understand the difference. If this book and all related book related to hijab or my religion is banned tomorrow, how will I feel? I will feel devastated. I will feel discriminated. And that's what has happened. No one has the right to do it. So the same thing happened with banning this book on same-sex parenting. It sends a strong message to our LGBTQIA+ community that they are not equal part of the society. It has caused significant distress, not only in them, but in people.
Excuse me, Councillor Faruqi. I'm sorry, but you're not at liberty to yell at the councillor who is now in debate with the other councillors. We are here in a council meeting and the debate is going on. If any of you try any more to yell at a councillor when they're speaking, I will ask you to leave and I will not ask you to come back.
But when I get sworn at, no one leaves, eh?
Councillors, we're going to continue with Councillor Faruqi and we're going to continue in debate. We now are in debate. Public forum is over and the council is now meeting and making decisions. You sit in silence, please, or you go home. Thank you, Councillor.
All right. It has caused significant distress, not only in them, but among people who strongly believe in equal right of everyone. And we heard many of them here in the gallery today. My heart bleeds for people who express their distress. As elected representative, our responsibility is to represent people, not to cause their distress. The message this banning sends is very harmful, and one of the speakers in the beginning said again and again that it has a deep implication. As one of the speakers said, I'm just repeating, it has a really, really very deep implication because it tells them they are not welcome here. It is a discrimination and racism which is not welcome anywhere in Australia. So every single member of our community is welcome here. They should feel equal, they shouldn't feel discriminated. Now, Mayor, I'm aware of the fact that having religious families in Cumberland Council was cited as the reason of banning this book. Now, no religion promotes discrimination. I know about my religion, which puts strong emphasis on living in harmony with everyone around, regardless their race and religion. As a follower of Islam, I can say that no one is stopping me from following my religion in Australia. No one is imposing their belief on me. Similarly, I can't force my belief on someone else. Australia is a secular country. Now, all religions have certain values, and I respect them all. But we need to understand a library is not a place of people of certain religion. Okay? It is a place for all people. So there are books on various topics in every library. If you don't like the topic of the book, if it contradicts your religious value, don't borrow it, don't take it, don't read it.
Councillor Faruqi, that's time.
Yeah, but just one.
Thank you, that's time. No, there's no extension. Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor Faruqi. We did stop the clock. I'm going to move now to Councillor Hamid. Thank you, Councillor Faruqi. Councillor Hamid.
Thank you, Mayor, and I too acknowledge and thank the speakers and members of the gallery tonight. And here we are again, entertaining yet another time-wasting distraction from Councillor Christou, one that is hateful, divisive, designed to further ostracise, further divide and further alienate yet another culture war. Allow me to take you down memory lane, Mayor and councillors and everybody in the gallery. I'm sure you'll all remember the media statement celebrating the win against a local mosque being refused, alienating the entire Muslim community. Who can forget the viral video describing people who do not sell or consume bacon as un-Australian, ostracising, of course, members of the Jewish and the Islamic faith, and argued that victims of domestic and family violence are often men rather than women and children. Who's next? Here's an idea. Let's pretend that Cumberland City Council is hosting drag story time. That'll get us votes. Actively and publicly campaigning against the racism not welcome campaign, a campaign which happens to speak to the fabric of our nation. And what about the petition attracting thousands of signatures asking for Christou's immediate resignation after he called for council to not fund non-Western cultural celebrations, especially Lunar New Year and Diwali? You couldn't make this stuff up, Mayor. Straight from the Pauline Hanson's One Nation handbook. And now this. Can you see the pattern here? It feels like, and these words will not be a surprise to many in the chamber today, it feels like Councillor Christou only ever seeks to divide, only ever seeks to confuse, and only ever seeks to mislead, all in the name of cheap political point scoring, because let's face it, he has very little more to offer. It is not the role of council to censor the information that is made available to members of the community in line with federal and state legislation. Removal of any books does indeed breach the Library Act and the guidelines, and discriminates against a section of the community, signalling that their lives and stories are less valid or unacceptable. This sets a dangerous precedent, Mayor, that could lead to further discriminatory practices under the guise of religious or moral beliefs. Ironically, it is the very invocation of purported religious beliefs to justify such exclusions that could lead to an environment where these very same religious groups can themselves become targets of discrimination. Today, it is books about LGBTIQ plus families, and tomorrow it could extend to literature pertaining to other religions or cultures and communities such as Muslim or Jewish faiths, or even the Bible. Is that what Councillor Christou is trying to achieve here? This is a dangerous slippery slope which will eventually erode our community's rich tapestry of diversity and the principles of free speech and expression.
Excuse me, Councillor Hamid. Councillor Hamid, if I could just interrupt and stop the clock. I'm sorry, it's time for you to leave. No, it's time for you to leave. Thank you. Just pardon me, Councillor Hamid. Yes, please. That's right, isn't it? Yeah. You can continue, Councillor Hamid. Thank you. I just ask everyone to be quiet.
Sorry, Mayor.
Yes. Thank you. You can continue.
Thank you, Mayor. The original motion fosters societal divisions that have historically led to shocking events in Sydney's past, namely the Cronulla riots. Supporting this disgraceful political stunt from One Nation's handbook will only perpetuate a society where discrimination and exclusion become the norm. I keep hearing all about how we need to save our children, hands off our children. Is this the society that you want your children to belong to? It is my right as a Muslim mother to take my children to the library, as we often do, and have access to information about Ramadan, Palestine, etc., and expose my children to voices and information which suit our values. That is not only my right, it is also my obligation to help my children and give them a good education. It is also my right to avoid books that do not align with my values. No one is forcing anyone to read anything that they do not feel comfortable reading, and that they do not feel comfortable reading that may be in line or not in line with their values. It is as simple as that. If you don't like the book, don't borrow it. Mayor, we have already seen the emails going around requesting the Bible, the Torah, the Quran to be banned from our libraries. Is that what Councillor Christou was trying to achieve here? Because that is where we will end up. But let's face it, this is not about the book at all. We all know that banning a book from a library will not stop people from accessing it at hundreds of other libraries, and in fact online and free to download, as we heard from my very good friend, may I add, Frank Webb tonight. The book has indeed been on the shelf since 2019, when Councillor Christou was, in fact, the mayor, only to have been borrowed once since then. This is about the elections around the corner.
Thank you, Councillor Hammond.
In the hope of staying relevant. Perhaps Councillor Christou can use some of his energy to actually read a book.
Councillor Hammond, thank you.
Mayor, I urge members of
We're
the
going
public
to
take
move
a
now
step
to
back
Councillor
and
Coleman.
consider
Thank
the
you,
book
Councillor
impact of
Hammond.
book banning and censorship.
Thank you, Councillor Hammond. We're going to move now. Thank you. Thank you for your great speech. Councillor Coleman, please. I'd like to begin by thanking everyone for coming in to speak tonight, and to thank all those people who took the time to contact me on this divisive matter, as well as all the thousands of people who signed the petitions. It's important that you be heard, and I thank you all for raising your voices. I said when this passed last meeting that I would bring a rescission on this disgraceful divisive motion, and I'm delivering on that promise tonight. As I said last time, this decision is problematic on three main issues: discrimination, censorship and representation. Firstly, this motion is clearly discriminatory. It is specifically targeted at gay people, conflating a book titled Same-Sex Parents with sexualisation and somehow a danger to children. Having read the little book, I can categorically say that it does not contain any sexualisation at all. The only reference to sex is a reference to gender. It's a reference to having parents of the same gender. Families with two mums or two dads are perfectly welcome in Cumberland and should be celebrated and included, just as all families are. There is no place for discrimination in our diverse community. All people have the same rights and freedoms throughout Australia and here in Cumberland as well. Secondly, this motion to rid same-sex parents' books from council libraries is a clear case of censorship. As I said at the last meeting, there is no place for councils to censor books. Any books that have not been restricted or prohibited should not be excluded from libraries on any grounds. Censoring books based on the views of a councillor is not acceptable. The role of our public libraries is to provide unbiased access to a whole range of ideas and information to meet the needs of our vibrant, diverse community. Readers are free to choose what they want to read. Parents are free to guide their children on what their children read. The principle is freedom of access, not censorship. Finally, on the point of representation, there are over 56,000 families in our LGA,
Obviously, these families come in all different shapes and sizes. It is the role of the council to represent all of these families, not to pick and choose who is in and who is out. I've heard claims that somehow this book ban is representative of the views of our community. I categorically contest that claim. People in our community come from all over the world with more than 150 languages spoken. Many people came to live here in freedom to escape persecution purely based on their identity, purely based on for being who they are. Their own history has taught them that banning books is almost always the beginning of wholesale persecution. Whole libraries have been burnt down to deny their existence. Others have fled from countries that deny women and girls a chance to read, a chance to get an education. They value the place of public libraries and their free access to information that is the cornerstone of education. Many people have contacted me to say that there is no way that their community supports book bans of any kind. In fact, they have praised the library staff for including a range of books featuring their language, culture, customs and religion. Everybody knows that representation is important. Seeing your own family represented on TV, in films and in books shows that your family is accepted, that we all belong. When children and their families are represented in books in our local libraries, it creates inclusivity rather than division, promoting a greater sense of community. As it says at the end of this little book, we should all feel proud of our families. This motion has created severe reputational damage to our council. It's exposed us to considerable risk of $750,000 of funding being pulled, and most importantly, it has caused unnecessary hurt to so many people in our community. This has eroded their trust in our capacity to deliver programs and services equitably, despite all the effort that we've put in to place diversity and inclusion at the heart of everything we do. It is essential that we demonstrate our commitment to the principles of free access, and that this chamber reaffirms its commitment to ensuring diversity and inclusion in all council services. This motion should not stand, and I urge all councillors to support the rescission. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Now I have Councillor Christou.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a couple of questions before I begin. Now, through you, Madam Mayor, to the appropriate officer, maybe that's Ms Byrne, or the General Manager. Now, my understanding is this motion, as it is, will put the book back in what the library deem is a general area, which is, again, going in the children's section. So even if a ban doesn't take place, can we just clarify that it doesn't specifically stipulate that it will go in an adult section?
Through you, Mayor, Councillor Christou, the motion as I read it and as I interpret it is that for Council to apply the current national or the records of Library Australia, or the National Library Australia Guide, or the regs and their instruction with respect to how the book's classified. If we follow point 2 of that motion, the book would go to junior non-fiction, which is what I understand it would be.
Thank you, Mr General Manager. Look, I won't be supporting this tonight, and I will speak on why, and then I'll move an amendment. What I stand here tonight as an elected representative representing his community. Cumberland City Council is a very multicultural community, and we deserve a voice. And those residents that have come to me have come from all over. And it's not just about religion, and it's not about marginalising people, because I welcome everybody, and I want to make it very clear that I represent everybody in this community, whether you are Christian, Islamic, Hindu, Jewish, whatever your background. I'm here to represent you, because others in this chamber, like Councillor Hamid, have failed you. Backbone Hamid, as she is known, has failed her community, walked out on the first meeting of this, originally voted against the ban for drag queen reading time, and then she came on board when her own community came down and supported the ban. But yet Councillor Hamid has the audacity tonight to sit here and cast stones on others who are here defending the community.
Point of order.
Councillor Christou, just take a seat while I deal with the point of clarification. Councillor Hamid, a point of clarification allows you to speak again, but after Councillor Christou has finished his speech. Is that what you're intending?
I'll be quick. I'll explain to Councillor Christou.
No. A point of clarification will allow you to speak again in the debate to clarify what is said, but you do that after Councillor Christou's finished his speech. Thank you. Please continue, Councillor Christou.
Now, the realities are, this is not the first time that we've received such complaints. In September of 2023, we received similar complaints about a different book. And this book was talking about gender identity and pride. And the book emphasised that, again in the 2-year-old section, that it's okay to be non-binary and it's okay, to transgender issues. Now, there is nothing wrong with such books as long as they're age appropriate. I'm only echoing the sentiments of our community. And this is very important. What we've heard tonight, we've heard that there's been 2 petitions taken in total of 50,000 signatures. We have heard of the voice of the public based on the 50,000 signatures. Well, a few realities state that out of those 50,000 signatures, only about 2,400 of them are in Cumberland. So out of 250,000 residents in Cumberland, that is 1.02% of the population. I repeat, 1.02% of the population. Now, in a country of 26 million, how many people did not sign the petition? And more importantly, Madam Mayor, can we stop for a minute?
I'd ask people to be quiet and let Councillor Christou have
Madam
his
Mayor,
say.
I'll just make a point.
Nobody
has interrupted.
I'm sorry, gallery. Can you please all be quiet and allow Councillor Christou to have his say? Everyone will be given an opportunity to speak. If you are getting a bit weary of being here, you are free to go and watch it on your screen at home. But please, if you stay here, sit in silence.
I will never apologise for representing the views of local residents that approach me. That is my job. That is my responsibility. And Australia would be a better place if more elected representatives actually took on the views and the opinions of their local constituency, because that's where we're failing here in this country. Now, whilst one group got to present a petition of 50,000 signatures, another group had their voice silenced. They started a petition on a similar platform saying, uphold the ban. And their petition was promptly taken down and their voices and signatures silenced. How's this fairness in our community? We want to talk about fairness and respect and loving everybody's views. Well, how's listening to one side of the community's views respect, but silencing another side of the community's views respectful? It's not on, and I'm here to represent our local community. Now, I'll make it very clear. I personally am very disappointed in some of my colleagues tonight because we've had the community show up, and whilst it was agreed that a fair measure to reach, a fair approach would be to put the book back in the library but in the over 18 section, some of my colleagues have now wavered and are going to go in a junior fiction section. For anybody, I'll spell it out. Junior fiction, junior non-fiction is an under 18, under 16 range hood. That's not acceptable, and I feel, Madam Mayor, that in all fairness, that is not acceptable. And even though we have sat here silent on this side of the chamber while the Labor Party councillors gave all their speeches, all we're getting is interruptions. We had hundreds of people show up tonight, hundreds of people within the Cumberland City Council community. Okay, they're not being heard. But what we have in the gallery and outside is a collection of the Labor Party membership branching Parramatta, branching Cumberland and Auburn. What they've done is a ring around, because everyone on the right side of the gallery, most people, and outside protesting have been imported in. Everybody over here on the left side are individual Cumberland City Council members. Now, I will move an amendment tonight, Mr Ayub, which I've previously given you, and I'd like you to put it on the screen, please. I emailed it earlier today. I can resend it to you again, Mr Ayub. Yep, just bear with me a moment. That's all right. That's all right, give me a minute. I'll just dig it out and I'll resend it to you.
Would you like to come back with the amendment, Councillor Christou, and allow another speaker while you sort that out?
Oh.
Well, I'm just wondering if I could have another speaker while you sort that out.
I'll wrap it up. But what I'll say is, despite sometimes... No, other people were given latitude, Councillor Coleman.
Yeah, Councillor Christou, your speech is
I'll wrap
finished.
it up. No, it's not finished.
You're 5 minutes.
I'll wrap it up, okay? I will not be deterred by some of my councillor colleagues crumbling tonight. I will always represent my community and I will stand strong regardless of the outcome tonight. And if this doesn't go through, just know that I represent you and I will continue to do so.
Thank you. Councillor Hussain.
Mayor, can I have my point of clarification now?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, you can, Councillor Hamid. Now, a point of clarification is where Councillor Christou has made a comment about something that you said earlier, and what he said that you said is wrong. I can
Mayor, I wanted
point you
to
to that clause,
clarify
but
for members of the gallery and anybody watching that I have been threatened with the murder of my children. The murder of my children, Mayor, with my employment from people in the gallery during the last debate, the last hateful, divisive debate that came from Councillor
Councillor Hamid, I'm just
That
going to
is
stop
why
you for a minute.
I did not participate in the original motion of the debate that we're discussing right now.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Councillor Hussain, I'll give you the clause.
Thank you, Mayor.
Then I'd ask for the same latitude for another point of clarification. The comment was made by Councillor Coleman with respect to Councillor Christou in that that book was put on the shelf at the time when he was mayor. You did. Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
No.
Was it Councillor Hamid that said that? You guys sound alike. Madam Mayor, the correction is... I didn't say that. I didn't say that. Don't put words in my mouth, Councillor Coleman.
Councillor Cummings, who was the mayor.
That's correct, because it was put on the shelf in February, and Councillor Christou wasn't elected as mayor till September 25 of the same year.
Thank you for
Shame
that
on you,
point of
Councillor.
So the book's been there the entire time he was mayor. Thanks for the clarification.
So we will now...
Welcome.
We will now move to Councillor Hussain. It's Councillor Hussain's turn to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. My dear fellow councillors, residents of Cumberland Council, I stand before you to address the recent controversy surrounding my vote, calling for the ban of the same-sex parenting book from the shelves of the library in the Cumberland local area. It's no secret that my decision has sparked criticism and backlash, and I believe it's important for me to explain the reason behind my vote. As a devout Muslim, I hold strong religious beliefs that guide my actions and my decisions. In Islam, condemning same-sex relationship is controversial to the teachings of the Quran and the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, whereby such relationships are viewed as sinful, immoral, and forbidden. My vote isn't a matter of a personal base or discrimination against the gay community, but rather a matter of adhering to my religious principles. I understand the diverse of inclusion and important values in our society, and I respect the right and choices of the individuals to live their lives as they see it. I have been a member of Cumberland Council since 2020, and I have been involved in dozens and attended many functions which have celebrated multiculturalism, inclusion and diversity. However, when it comes to the matter that directly conduct my religious beliefs, I must stand firm, uphold those beliefs. It is with heavy heart that I must also inform you that I have received serious threats against my safety due to my vote on this matter. While it has been a cause of much personal distress, I remain steadfast in my commitment to my beliefs. Furthermore, I want to highlight the vast majority of residents in our LJ also strong religious beliefs. And there are thousands and thousands of residents, both Muslims and non-Muslims, who live in the great area of Cumberland who agree with my stance on this issue. So mine isn't an isolated view, but one shared by a significant portion of our local community. Additionally, I have also received a lot of positive feedback from Muslim followers of other faiths from outside our area concerning this matter. In conclusion, of same-sex parenting books in our library goes against the values of teaching of Islam. As a councillor, it is my duty to represent the beliefs and values of community, and I cannot, in good conscience, support something that goes against my religious beliefs. I ask you to understand and respect my position on this matter. While I might be criticised for my vote, I stand with my conviction and sanity. I hope that we can continue all to work together respectfully despite the differences in opinion and beliefs. And just to be clear, I work with a lot of LGBTQ+A nurses, doctors, physios, psychologists, psychiatrists, and we all respect each other and we all respect each other's beliefs. This is not a war on you guys, and this is not a war on myself. As you're aware, I had a very good conversation with Caroline Staples. We hugged out, we made out, and we both understand. You're married? Yes, Caroline, I must be clear. We hugged out, we made out, and we understood where we both came from, and I'm glad that we are both on the same page. As most things, as you say, but I'd like to thank you all for coming out, for your support and for your understanding, and I will always be there to help the community and to help any member of the community, no matter what religion or faith you're from. Thank you all for understanding, and thank you all for being here today.
Thank you, Councillor Hussain. Did you want to put your amendment up, Councillor Christou?
It's up, Madam Mayor.
And while we're waiting, Councillor Garrard, it's 10.23. 10.23.
What are we on now?
Point of clarification.
Sorry, you give me, what was it?
10.23, clause 10.23.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor, I'm happy to second that.
So just before you start, can we have a look at the motion that's before us, the original motion? And then, so, Council adopt the library strategy. Can I have a look at the amendment? Council adopt the library strategy. Okay, so what you're trying to do, I guess, is delete paragraphs 2 and 3 of the original motion and replace it with paragraphs 2, 3 and 4. Yep. Is that what you're doing? Correct. So the amendment is delete paragraphs 2 and 3 of the original motion.
That's correct.
And
I want to implement
and
it.
Insert.
I want to implement it as is, Madam Mayor.
Yes, but it's an amendment,
Yeah,
so I have to show how you are changing the original motion.
Okay, yeah.
So you can take out paragraph 1 because you're keeping that. That's why it's an amendment. So you're keeping paragraph 1 of the original motion, adopt the library strategy, and then you're saying So you were not inserting 1, 2 and 3, you're inserting new paragraphs 2, 3 and 4. So the numbering, Mr Ayub, is not 1, 2 and 3, it'll be 2, 3 and 4. I think that, does that make sense to everyone?
You should have just left the first point in there.
You should have left the first point in there. I want the library strategy adopted.
I know you do, and that's what's happened.
Why don't we just leave the whole
Yeah,
motion?
because it's an amendment. Because
You're
it's an
confusing it for
amendment.
nothing, Madam Mayor. It's quite
No,
simple.
it's an amendment. It's an amendment to the original motion. So you've got the motion. We've got a replacement motion in front of us, a motion to alter in front of us, and you want to amend the motion to alter by taking out 2 and 3 and putting in new 2, 3 and 4. So I'm just reading 2, 3 and 4, that the book titled Same-Sex Parents be moved to the adult collection non-fiction section. The General Manager implement procedures to ensure that children under the age of 18 can only access books which are age appropriate. I don't know how that works. And 4, upon implementation of the procedures, the General Manager is to conduct a review to ensure Council is compliant with the new procedures.
Can I get into it now, Madam Mayor?
Just before you do, I guess I have to ask the question of the mover of the original motion, Councillor Huang, whether you're accepting of the amendment. I take it that you're not.
Madam Mayor.
No. Councillor Christou, you can now proceed to explain and then promote, I guess, your amendment. Councillor Christou.
Thank you. Well, I stand here tonight as an elected representative that stood up and and gave a voice to the community. Now, I would like to make it clear, people approach me and I voice their opinion, and I've stood strong in that. And in return, I have received death threats, I have received abuse, and my family has been abused as well. Now, they don't deserve that, and for standing up for the community I'm meant to represent. But despite all that, I will continue standing up for our community, because I believe Australia will be a better place if more elected representatives actually stood up for their local community. Now, I'll make it clear, and I shouldn't need to, but I will anyway. This is not an attack on gay or same-sex couples. What we're saying is, the book, what we're saying is address the concerns of local residents and place the book in the adult section of the library. And if a parent wants to come and borrow the book and give it to their child, so be it. But they should not be within reach in the 2-year-old section of the library. It's very simple. That is a view of the community. However, in return, even now while I speak, we're getting shut down, we're getting interjected, and we're getting screamed at for representing the views of the community. Now, the community have seen what's gone on tonight. The community have seen the bias. The community have seen how they've been shut down, their voice taken away. Okay, they've seen this because while one section of the community, the people that live in Cumberland, have asked me to represent them, we've had another section come from outside Cumberland and cause chaos and say this is what they want for the community. Again, this is not a target on gay or same-sex couples. What we're saying is parents believe that books should be age appropriate, and we cannot have toddlers just asking questions of their parents about genders and non-binary and other issues that parents are quite frankly not ready to face. Now, 50,000 signatures. A lot is made about 50,000 signatures and saying it's a big voice of the community. But what's a bigger issue is how another section of the community was shut down. How another section was told, your petition needs to come off the platform. You don't get a voice. And maybe the Labor Party councillors are blind tonight, but maybe they miss their community that came out in the hundreds to protest. Because most of the protesters were not from your community. Now, we've had Councillor Harmer try to cast dispersions about me and try to say you know, that Lunar New Year and I didn't represent cultural values. I will remind Councillor Hamid that after COVID, I was the one that brought in all the cultural events back to Cumberland City Council. I was the one that brought in the Ramadan feast, the Ramadan event. I was the one that implemented the Diwali New Year for our Afghan and Persian residents. We never had that. I mean, Neroz New Year, I apologise, Neroz New Year. I brought back Diwali. We never had that. But here we have some people over there that were not inclusive. We are very inclusive. All we're saying is represent the values and represent the voice that are different to yours, Councillor Hamid, Councillor Coleman, Councillor Saha. Because when the going gets tough, I will always be here to represent all the community. I won't be like Backbone Palm. I won't be like Backbone Hamid and run from the chamber 2 weeks ago when this debate came up. I can only assume she didn't want to make a decision, but we'll let her answer that. I won't be like Backbone Hamid that makes a decision on drag story reading time and then caves in the next week, because whether people like it or not, I'm prepared to stand by my convictions and represent the views of my community. And I will continue to do so. And in closing, I ask the community, September is around the corner. You will see tonight which councillors you feel represent you and which councillors don't. We will leave this here tonight. Know that I stand strong for you, and you get a chance to vote in your elected representatives in the not too distant future. Thank you.
Councillor Sarkis, please.
What can I say? I'm speaking in favour of the amendment, and I'll speak to that, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, first of all, I'll start off by saying, as I've said on many occasions before, I am a proud Maronite Catholic, and I don't waver from my upbringing, my teachings, and the way of life that we were brought to appreciate as Catholics. In saying that, I also appreciate the way of life of whether you are Muslim or you are Jewish, whether you are Hindu or of any other faith, whether you have no faith, you believe in nothing, and whether you live your life in an environment of a same-sex relationship. I love and respect everyone, all of you. But this is not about you or me. This is not about the older people in the gallery. It's not about the people that are standing behind me and in front of me or sitting. It's about our children. It's about our kids. It's about the children. Madam Mayor, I have no problem with this book. I actually, when I was informed of the book, I asked for the book so I could read it, and I read it. And I don't find any of the wording in this book controversial. I also note that the author of this book has written 7 other books, which creates a series of 8 books. And the other books are titled Disability, Cyberbullying, Death, Online Safety, Bullying, Step Families, and Having 2 Homes. These are all interesting topics. Nonetheless, do I agree with this book being in the children's section? Personally, I say no. And I'll talk as to why I say no. You see, if children are brought up in an environment of a same-sex relationship, they're already exposed to this. And if they want a book, they only need to ask their parents or the librarian, and they can get the book. But to have it there for every other child as well, who might accidentally pull this book off the shelf and have a look at it and start asking questions of their parents who are not prepared to answer these questions yet. Not at 3 or 4 or 5 or 6-year-old. Not for a child that young. If a 12-year-old asked you the question, you might be able to answer it. But being a parent myself, I would find it somewhat difficult to sit there and say to my child or any other child that this is normal and this is this and this is that. I couldn't. And so I wouldn't put any other parent in that position. I'm not saying ban the book. No, I don't agree in banning any book, period. But there is a place on the shelf for every book, and I think the place for this book is not in the children's section, but perhaps, in a teenage section or an adult section. And that's where I'll rest it. That's where I'll rest it, Madam Mayor. I think that pictures speak 1,000 words, and the words in this book are not offensive. There's no sexualising of children in this book, but what there is photos that may portray something as okay for a child, and it may well be okay, but not according to my faith and the way I was brought up, and so I wouldn't want to push that on any other child, and so I think we should put it in the adult section, and that's why I was happy to second this. I'll leave it at that.
Councillor Sarkis. Yes, Councillor Garron.
Amendment.
Councillor, you'll have to wait. I've got Councillor Saha, Councillor Elmore, Councillor Faruqi, Councillor Zeta.
I'm just indicating that I have a foreshadowed amendment.
That's fine, but we'll bring it up when you have your turn to speak.
I know you will, yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Saha.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In the Library of Democracy...
Pardon me, Councillor Saha. Councillor Garrett, you'll need to press your button if you want to get into the queue. Thank you.
I was already there.
You've gone. Councillor Saha.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In the Library of Democracy, censorship should never be borrowed from the shelf of ignorance or lack of knowledge. I also like to take this opportunity to thank all the public speakers and the religious leaders who have taken their efforts to come and address us tonight. We are in the age of information where almost everything you can find online. The book, Same-Sex Parents, can also be found online for free. It is our choice what we read, just like it's up to the readers to pick up their books, or parents to guide their kids on what they should read. When we go to the library, we don't search for banned books. We choose what we want to read. In New South Wales, libraries, including council libraries, follow the Library Act. Banning books by councillors goes against this act, as Mr. Webb correctly said. The Act ensures everyone can access information freely. Neither councillors nor any council can ban books. It is against the law and falls under the New South Wales government jurisdiction. As for where a book should place in the library, it depends on its classification. Records from Libraries Australia and the guidelines the librarians follow. The book's classification is a matter for the Commonwealth Classification Board, which falls within the federal government jurisdictions. And Same-Sex Parent book has been properly classified for Australia as junior non-fiction, and it has no restriction on. Councillor Christou did not even read the book, but wanted to ban it first. And from the social media I come to know recently, he now backtracked and want to put the book in the adult section. Councillor Christou, it's not your job, it's not my job, it's not any councillor job to ban this book or any other book in the libraries.
Councillor Sahab, please be quiet while I speak. I don't want to have a break at 10 to 10. Councillor Christou, you need to...
I didn't interrupt him.
You were very happy to sit by and let your colleagues interrupt my speech twice.
Councillor, sit down.
We say one word, you want to jump down my throat. I will not take the garbage of
Councillor Christou.
It's all the facts.
Councillor, be quiet.
Facts. When you say the fact, Councillor Christou can't take it, right?
You can't interrupt a speech for a point of clarification. Councillor Saha, I'm sorry for that interruption, and I would ask Councillor Christou, please don't yell at everybody. Thank you, Councillor Saha. Come on.
Councillor Christou, it's not your job, it's not my job, it's not the job of any councillors in this council chamber to ban any book in the libraries. As Mrs. Wheeler correctly pointed out, leave it to our expert librarians, state government, and the Commonwealth Classification Board. And let me tell you why I would not be supporting this amendment tonight, because there is no such thing in the classification called the age appropriate. Now, Councillor Christou, you probably haven't also read the library strategy because this was all about the library strategy. But you are okay quickly to endorse our strategy? If you read our library strategy, in its introduction, it outlines a vision for Cumberland to continue to provide sustainable, innovative, accessible and inclusive library services to the community. And your attempt, Councillor Christou, to remove the book goes against the idea of including everyone in the Cumberland community. Cumberland is one of the most diverse communities in New South Wales, if not in Australia. And that's something we are very proud of. We want everyone to feel welcome, included here. We don't want any hate. We don't want any division. We need to make that message very loud and clear to everyone. My councillor colleague, let's focus on the real issue our community is facing and not bring unnecessary media attention to us for wrong reasons. Let's put Cumberland Council's name for the progress and not going backwards. In my final remarks, I just want to say this. In a fair society, we should not use ignorance to decide what people can read and should read. I hope some common sense will prevail tonight, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Well, we can. The clause is 18.2. So we extend time from 10 o'clock. No, we're actually up to the 10 o'clock. So for the extension of time is clause 18.2. We'll move an extension from 10 to 11, or if the matter's not finished at 11, till after that item of business is concluded. Can I have a mover?
I'll move that way, Mayor.
From 10 to 11. Move Councillor Hammond, seconded Councillor Sarkis. You know the drill. All those in favour? I declare that carried. We keep going. Councillor Elmore.
I believe there was a point of clarification by Councillor Christou. Excuse me, Mayor, I think you're running the meeting.
Sometimes I'm not so sure. Actually, it wasn't Councillor Christou. I think it was Councillor Garrard who wanted to clarify a matter. Wasn't you?
I'm perfectly clear.
No, it wasn't. We're going back to Councillor Elmore in his speech. Thank you. I think it was Councillor Garrard.
That's on now. So where are we? We're on the amendment, aren't we?
We're in the amendment debate.
Okay. Well, have my button.
Are you for or against the?
Well, I just want to put a clarification first. I had my button pushed on for the amendment for the actual motion, but I didn't get there. So now we're in the amendment. Anyway, I'm against the amendment because it's another poorly worded motion by Councillor Christou. Councillor Christou gets himself in all this trouble because he can't word motions correctly. My clarification is for a year to the general manager or the director of libraries. Let's say, how's this going to work? We're going to cordon the section off. Are we going to put a barrier so the children can't walk past books that for the adult section is because. Don't interrupt me, Councillor Christou. You're a very, very rude person. You weren't taught any manners. You weren't taught any manners.
Excuse me, we do have to get on with this, or we're not going to get there tonight.
My parents taught me manners, Councillor Christou.
I would really like to finish this debate. Councillor Elmore.
Madam Mayor, I will not have Councillor Elmore bring my parents into the matter. Okay, he's previously brought my fiancée into the matter. He's previously exposed her place of work. Shame on you. Now you're bringing my parents into the matter. Shame on you.
Take your seat.
I demand he takes it back. My parents do nothing to Councillor Elmore.
Take your seat, and I will ask him to withdraw. Take your seat. I didn't hear the comment, but if you made some reference to Councillor Christou's parents, I think you can withdraw that.
I can withdraw that, Mayor. It's still true, though. But anyway, I can withdraw it and apologise.
And apologise.
Look, we know the rules. When you make a statement like that, it has to be withdrawn and without reservation.
And apologise.
He withdrew an apology.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't apologise.
He did.
I withdraw even though it's true.
No, he said it was sorry. Didn't you apologise?
I apologise and withdrew.
Thank you. Come on. let's keep going. Thank you.
So where I was, Mayor, how can this be implemented? Do we have an adult section of the library and a children's section of the library? And do you need to bring a parent in on parent supervision if you're under 18 and need to go in the adult section or walk through to get to the children's section? And what is an age-appropriate book? I don't know. When I went to college years ago, I had to do a library course. I didn't know how the library worked, I understand that all these are categorised. There's a jury system or something at the moment. Do they say? Do they give council staff direction or council catalogue staff direction on what the age appropriate book is? What happens if it's what? I just I can ask as many questions as I want, can I? So how's this system going to? So how's this motion going to work in practice?
Through you, Mayor, Councillor Elmore. There is an adult non-fiction section in the library. I'm being advised. There is a junior and children's section of the library as council's been discussing tonight. Councillor, with respect to implementation of any procedures, looking at this amendment, the short time that it's been on the screen, it's something that I would have to sit down with the director and probably the library committee with to work out a set of protocols and procedures to ensure that we are looking at ways in which we conform with the resolution. And then point 4 would probably be the implementation of the procedures. That would be a separate matter that I would have our director undertake with respect to any sort of compliance with any new procedures. And just reading the amendment very quickly, that council would instruct me to do.
So it would be problematic, wouldn't
it? Through you, Mayor, Councillor, the matter, like I've just explained, the matter, I reading the amendment as quickly as council is, like I just explained to you, the matter could be done, but we would need the assistance of the director of community and also potentially the library committee as well.
I understand there is a I also understand there's a proposal to install a library vending machine at Baralla. Does that mean you need to be 18 to use the machine? I know it's another silly motion that can't be implemented, I'm voting against the rescission.
Thank you. Look.
Is that one of your friends?
Excuse me, councillors. Let's just get through this amendment debate. I have a lot of speakers here, and I think you better be patient because I've got Councillor Faruqi, Zeta, Coleman, Cummings, and Garron. We've got a bit to do. Can we be quiet and listen to what everyone has to say? Councillor Faruqi in the amendment debate. Thank you.
I'm talking to the amendment, Mayor. So I have 2 questions. One is for the General Manager. So General Manager previously confirmed that it is categorized as children's book. Can I please ask you a question? Is there any section called 2-year-old section?
Through you, Mayor, Councillor Faruqi, there is nothing with that title in the library that I'm aware of.
There is. Okay. Through you, Mayor, I have a question for Councillor Christou. Councillor Christou, do you have training on library classification system?
Councillor Faruqi, honestly, I'm disappointed by you, okay?
All right, that's not the answer. That's not the answer. All right.
Councillor Faruqi, I don't need training to know when my community tells me that I want certain books in the 2-year-old or the picture section of the library. It's that simple.
All right, I live in your community. All right.
That is a no. Thank you.
That's a no. Okay. So the answer.
I represent the views of my community.
All right.
And they're telling me
I think I'm supposed to talk now.
Section of the library.
We understand. We've listened to.
All right. So last. Okay. In the last meeting, the actual motion was the council take immediate action to read same-sex parents' book materials in council's library service. So he wanted to get rid of it from the whole library, and now he's saying it should be moved from the children's section. Now it is a children's book. It is classified as children's book. Why? No, General Manager confirmed it is children's book. So if it is classified as children's book, why should it be in adult section? Now, from the gallery, people who are online can't hear it, so they are shaming and they're huffing and puffing on what I'm saying. Now, I have child, I am a mom, I have child, and I want my child to read it. It is a children's book. My child should be aware of the reality. This is the reality of Australia. He should, if he wants to read it, he will read it, and I want him to read it. Because it is about education. It is about education. And
I'm going to interrupt you again. Would the people who have just yelled out to Councillor...
Please stop the clock.
Please leave. I want you to leave. Thank you. I'd like you to leave now.
Now, it is not a councillor's job. Now, it is not a councillor's job to say which book should be here. Don't use religion. Don't use religion in everything. Okay? This is about democracy. This is about education. Don't use religion. Now, this councillor who has put the amendment, now saying that he doesn't have any training on classification. All our staff are trained, okay? And they know what to do. It is not a councillor's job to say which book to keep, which not to, how to classify. It is a children's book. It should be there, okay? So, come on, councillors. Let's vote it down. Let's vote down the amendment. We are here to do the council work. People elected us to do the actual important work. He is not representing me. He is not representing many, many parents in our council. Let's not waste our time in discussing someone's election agenda. We already heard that September is in the corner. We remember that. So we know now like, what it is about. So let's not waste our time in discussing someone's election agenda. Let's move on and discuss the important thing.
Councillor Zeta. Councillor Zeta. Just before you start, Councillor Zeta, I think people are getting a little tired, and it might be a good idea to go home and watch it on the screen now.
Why are you looking at one side of the community?
Because they're yelling at the policeman, Councillor. I would ask you if you want to talk to a policeman that you take him outside. I can't run a meeting with you having a conversation across the public gallery. If you want to talk, please leave the room. I can't run a meeting with you having conversations in the public gallery. Have you got that clear, sir? Otherwise, I ask you to leave. Sir? I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. You two, you gentlemen, I think maybe it's time to go. Please, Councillor Zeta, please, you can start now. I just want people, if you're going to stay here, please be quiet. I don't want you arguing with each other. It's getting late.
Mayor, I move the amendment be put.
I've called Councillor Zeta. If that's what you want to move, you can do that after Councillor Zeta. I've called Councillor Zeta, and I'll let him speak, and then you can move your motion if you wish.
Madam Mayor. Wait a minute, Mayor. I was next in line.
No. Councillor Hamid has moved that the amendment be put.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just asking Councillor Zeta to speak. Well, she may change her mind. Councillor Zeta.
Not yet.
No, because I've called Councillor Zeta, and he's going to be given the opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I must say, over the past 7 days, I've probably learnt more about libraries than I have in the last 12 years that you and I have been on council together. Let me just start by saying that the current motion that we've got before us that was moved by Councillor Huan, I believe, and Councillor Faruqi, will move the book from the picture book section into the junior non-fiction section. And let me just also say that back in 2019, when this book was acquired by council, when I first looked at this book at the last council meeting, I looked at it and I thought to myself, wait a second,
this book doesn't look like a book that should be in the picture book section. And it was confirmed, since the last meeting, it has been confirmed that the book is actually categorised junior non-fiction. It shouldn't have been in that section to begin with, because there were a number of other books within that series that was actually placed in the junior non-fiction. And I believe our council staff have actually looked at a number of other councils around us, and they've actually placed this particular book in the junior non-fiction section. So if we do pass the original motion or the alternate motion, it is going to move it into the junior non-fiction section. Whilst I understand where Councillor Christou and Councillor Sarkis are coming from, what I'm getting at from them, and I totally understand what they're trying to get at. They're trying to allow parents to, well, they believe the parents should have the right to choose what their children read, and I agree with that. Parents should have the right. I've got 3 children, aged from 6, 10 and 12. But one thing that they need to also keep in mind, in our libraries, and a lot of people may not realise this, in our libraries, no one under the age of 18 can get a library card without parental consent. No one under the age of 12 can be in a library without a parent or a guardian. No one under the age of 12 can borrow a book without a parent or a guardian being with them. If they are found to be in the library without a parent or a guardian, and if the parent and the guardian cannot be located, the police will be called. So in terms of parents' rights, because the parent must be with the child under the age of 12, they have the ability to choose what that child can read, what that child can touch, what things the child can deal with when they're in that when they're on council premises. So in that respect, I believe that as a parent, that is my right, and my right is provided to me by the mere fact that my child cannot be in that library without me being there if they're under the age of 12. So supporting the amendment, I think, goes a bit too far in that I do have the right at the present time, and not just the right, I have to be there. I have no choice not to be there, otherwise my child cannot be in the library. So I don't support the amendment, I do support the original motion, and I would hope that the majority of my council colleagues also go that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hamid, did you wish to proceed with your motion that the amendment be put?
Yeah, I'll put it to the chamber, Mayor.
Okay, I have a motion that the amendment be put. All those in favour? I think we'll have a show of hands at this stage. So there's been at least 2, there's been 2 in support, 4 against. So the motion can be put. All those in favour that the amendment be put, show of hands, please.
Well, we're going to silence the rest of the speakers.
Councillors Zeta, Cummings, Elmore, Saha, Faruqi, Hamid and Lake. How many is that? It's 7, is it? Can you put your hands up high? Thank you. So I can count them, please. Not Councillor Huang. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is it 7? Oh, they're over there. Right. Thank you. And against that the amendment be put? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. Oh, 7. Okay, well, I voted that the amendment be put, so that's where we are. At 10:05. Well, we're going to put this amendment, which means you don't have to foreshadow. You can just put an amendment. No, it's an amendment. It's all right. You can do more. You can do as many amendments. Okay, so we're going to vote on the Christou Sarkis amendment. All those in favour, please raise your hands clearly. So I've got Councillor Hussain, Councillor Sarkis, Councillor Garrett and Councillor Christou. That's 4. Is that right? All those opposed to the amendment, please raise your hands clearly. Councillors Hamid, Huang, Elmore, Saha Coleman, Faruqi, Lake, Cummings and Zeta. The amendment has been lost. You can move a further amendment when I get to you. I'm up to Councillor Coleman on the list.
No, Madam Mayor, that's incorrect.
Well,
when there is an amendment to be moved,
yeah.
it's given priority over another speaker.
Yeah, but the amendment's not before me yet.
But he's indicated that he's going to raise. So what happens in this case, Madam Mayor, is if somebody says let the motion be put, then nothing else is done.
No. I have a list of speakers. I have no. Yes.
I pressed my button to speak on the amendment. The amendment has already been put. I cannot speak. I will wait till the new amendment and then I will press my button and speak on.
All right. That's Councillor Cummings. I have Councillor Coleman. I have Councillor Cummings, and then I have Councillor Garrard. Councillor Cummings, did you wish to speak to the motion that's before us? And then Councillor Garrard, you can put your amendment. Thank you, Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Like Councillor Zeta, I too have learnt quite a lot about how libraries work, and I'd like to thank the Director for Library and Community Services for her education to me, as well as many of the audience. I too concur. The only people who should give permission or give approval of what their children should read are their parents. But having said that, under the current unattended child library policy, they have to be above 12. Otherwise, they've got to have a senior there with them to give them that permission. That I'm comfortable with as a safeguard. The thing that I'm not comfortable with in this modern world, once they get over 12, every teenager has a mobile phone and can read what they like. And until we as a society can do something about that, well, we're always going to be a dog chasing its tail. If we stick to the rules and we leave it to the council staff with occasional reviews, I see that it can work quite well. I was amazed that the book sat in that shelf for 5 years and was only taken out once. Shows how much interest there was in that particular book. But we've given the author great kudos now. Good luck to him. So, Madam Mayor, I'm more than comfortable to support the original motion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cummings. Now, Councillor Garrard, you have an amendment, I understand.
Madam Mayor, I would move for ease of getting things organised here, the same amendment that Councillor Christou moved, less points 3 and 4.
That's right.
Yeah, which would be simply that Council adopt the library strategy, etc., and that the book titled Same-Sex Parent be moved to the adult collection non-fiction section.
I'm thinking whether we've already done this.
No, we haven't.
But I have to say what we did was we rejected a motion that had more conditions to it. So I'll allow the amendment for debate. Do you have a seconder? Yes. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Hughes. I think. Do you want to, Councillor Hughes?
Whoever seconds that. Well,
thank you.
Councillor Garrard.
Councillor Garrard, would you like to proceed?
And the clock start again?
The clock is on 5. Off you go.
Well, councillors, where do you start with such a complicated issue? Well, I stand before you tonight as a rampant homo sapien, and unlike undesirably to be a rampant homosexual, but a rampant homo sapien, the issue has been raised tonight, I think, and been very well established that the book was in the wrong section, was indeed with the likes of Peter and the rabbit and the Bambi. Now, you know, it shouldn't have been there, and we all accept that. In every statement I've made publicly in the last week, I've said the same thing. The issue was that at the last council meeting, we've gone through the matter where the Mayor didn't accept the item of urgency to make it come forward. It got attached to the library strategy and late at night, and in the chaos that occurred with the situation with the Labor Party in thorough chaos over there, in and out of the meeting, it was an opportunity without getting the wording right in the resolution, and I admit that the wording was wrong. The idea was to rid the book from the toddlers or the children's section, and but not to rid the book from the library. We're not against censorship, and I've made that point very, very clear right from the start. Councillor Hammond, of course, added to the chaos by running out of the chamber, running for the hills. Earlier tonight, we've heard Councillor Coleman talk about how inclusive we are and how diverse we are. Well, when we had the Falun-Duffer here, their issue at the last council meeting, a Chinese community that opposed communism, that simply wanted, and I might add, an organisation that is hundreds of thousands of millions around the world, when they just wanted this council to acknowledge their setting up of their organisation some 32 years ago, a letter of congratulations. No, we wouldn't do that. The Labor Party said, no, we're not going to do that. So, I mean, out the door goes inclusiveness, out the door goes, you know, this word diversity as well. But it gets raised here tonight, you know, in such a sanctimonious type of fashion. When you read the types of books that we're talking about, and I've got examples of one here, you know, it goes through the ABC, and you can imagine a young child sitting down and seeing, what's N stand for? Well, N stands for non-binary. You know, oh gee, that's interesting, isn't it? And what does T stand for? Well, T stands for trans, and S stands for stereotypes. Well, you know, the young children that I've seen, the toddlers that walk around in the children's section, looking at pictures, and that's what they are, picture books of Bambi with no words. They wouldn't know what the word stereotype, unless the child that you have must be of extreme genius. And to start the ABC, etc., with N standing for non-binary and T stands for trans, to be quite frank, I think it's a bit beyond toddlers. You know, the book, if books are going to have information associated with that, I'm happy to support a community position that is outlined in terms of the amendment that I've raised tonight. I've got nothing against communities of all types. I've received a letter here today, an email. I'm writing this as a representative of the LGB Alliance Australia. We have over 2,000 members. Our organisation was formed because of the once effective and necessary gay organisations that help fight discrimination and homophobia, but they no longer represent us. They have been deserted, they've deserted us entirely, and now put all their focus and funding into the trans, queers, activities and gender ideology. So it goes on. So we do not support drag queens in kids' classrooms, books on trans and gender in kids' libraries. And it goes on to say, perhaps a nuisance here...
Time, thank you, Councillor Garrett.
Just finishing up, that the book is not placed in the children's section, but is available for adults who may want to discuss that topic with their children, which is a legitimate thing to do, as lesbians and gay men do have own families.
Thanks, Councillor Garrett. Councillor Hughes, seconded the amendment.
at the outset too, I certainly can only reiterate, and as I have said to anyone that I had spoken to or emailed, that this was never intended to be banned. The intention was to have the material appropriately located. And yes, there was very inappropriate wording, incorrect wording, but it is what it is. I've got very close friends with partners of the same gender, never have any problems, and I always treat all people equally and respectfully. And again, some commentary that I've received, disappointingly, of course, associated with that is some communications, both verbally and in writing, were quite contentious, inappropriate, and certainly threatening in some respects. Not appropriate. The wording at the last meeting was inaccurate, and it was intended as such to be voted on, though, as a matter of urgency. And as has been noted here, it wasn't permitted under that figure, and that's how this matter escalated enormously, and that operational issue just went out the window in that respect. On many times of various issues that I have spoken about in the council, I've mentioned that, of course, Cumberland is a very elongated area. We go all the way, of course, from Rookwood in the east, all the way out to the Greystanes area, Pemmel Way, etc. We have very different arrangements of varying cultures across our communities, almost in different sections. It's quite extraordinary. And something that might be okay with one group is of concentrated or care or concern for others. Other people think, what are they on about? It's no big deal. But everywhere is different. And I am not using this on a sole aspect of a religious belief. The fact is we have got a very large multicultural group, and this is some of the circumstances associated with that. The intent of putting this in, this amendment, was to try to be fair and equitable for all. We do not have focused boundaries in our area, and we don't need a passport to go from one section to another, but we have to make decisions for across the area, which is extremely different from one space to another almost. I also do find it quite ridiculous in some respects that some councillors have made commentary about how good are we've put in the rescission, blah, blah, blah. Well, why do we think...
Madam Mayor.
Why do we think that it happens to be in the general matters of the agenda? It's not in the rescission item. So really, the way that I have interpreted this, they're just raising it again for their highlight. It genuinely wasn't of any grave concern to put it in during the time frame that it should be to be in the rescission listing. So for commentary along those lines, it's a bit up themselves about how good are we, but they certainly did not do that in the time frame that it should have been put in if they wanted it in all care and respect as far as being a real rescission, not just a flow-on effect, and that is what it is. The location of these books was never intended, as I've said, to be removed, but it should be appropriately placed. The concern for toddlers, I do understand about the circumstances for children going to libraries, their parents, etc. Perhaps I go to libraries at the wrong time, but I do see children there, younger than 12, that clearly have been just looking at things themselves and so forth. And again, it might come down to that passion of a parent, concern or otherwise. The intent of putting this into that area is solely to have comfort for all. And I do mean for all. Some parents will say, well, no, it's not, because it's then segregated. But at least then, if the parent wants to take that out and introduce that to their child, that is a way of going about it. And equally, we are looking after others who do feel very uncomfortable, very unsafe, just certainly feeling that something is being pushed in the direction of their child unnecessarily. And that can be a concern for many. There has never been any matters to suggest that children are unsafe and that others of any persons, children, parents, no matter what their background is, are not welcome. That is never the case. Any from communications that have been said, I feel is completely unrelated to that. This is the location of the book and the importance in that respect overall.
Thank you. Councillor Coleman.
I'd like to just start off by asking who here has a university qualification in library and information science? Anybody? Anybody with a qualification in library and information science? Yeah, we have one person here, the director. Okay, the director, the only person qualified. And some people in the audience. Thank you. I'd prefer those people determining it. So what I want to talk about here is beginning by saying that misguided concerns over children's safety should never be weaponised to discriminate against children and their families. I've been reliably informed that one complaint was made about this book being in the picture book section. The director immediately removed the books from the shelves to reconsider the classification. She's determined that it should be catalogued as a junior reference book and placed in the library accordingly, in accordance with the guidelines of Libraries Australia. That should have been the end of it, but instead here we are weaponising children's books in yet another culture war. By placing this book in the adult section, you are denying the knowledge, experience and dedication of our professional librarians who work with children every day, who work with books every day. They know what they are doing, and I'd much rather rely on them to determine where books go than a counsellor who is merely pushing his ideological agenda. By placing this book in the adult section, you are still censoring it. You are saying that representations of families with two mums or two dads are not suitable for children. You are saying that these children's families are not acceptable to children, that these children's families are not accepted in Cumberland. Our motto here is welcome, belong, succeed. It's here for everyone to see. All children and their families are welcome in Cumberland. All children and their families belong in Cumberland. This is a children's book and it belongs in the children's section. As it says in this little book, all loving families are good. Remember, as long as you are happy, it doesn't matter what other people think. We have a dozen local residents who have read this book and said there is nothing wrong with it here who came and spoke to us tonight. Thousands of people have signed a petition saying that this book is fine. Hundreds of local residents have contacted me to say they are against this ban, against this censorship. I am listening to their voices. I'm here to represent my community, and we all know that this is about more than one little book. Parents' rights to determine what books their children can read must be upheld. Parents are best placed to protect their children, to keep them safe, to decide on their children's education and knowledge, to decide exactly which books they can read. This amendment is not acceptable. I move the amendment be put so that we can vote it down, but I think we need one more speaker against. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coleman. I've only had two in support and one against. And my next speaker is Councillor Christou.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, we have seen now the debates raged on for 4 hours, and we've seen down the watering down of people's point of view in this chamber. Now, what's happened tonight? Okay, we've got two sections of the community. One section of the community is saying the book ban's gone too far, put it back in the library. The other section of the community is saying put it in the adult section of the library. One would think that's a reasonable compromise. Unfortunately, what's happening is there is no reasonable compromise with those opposite. They will not agree to put it in the adult section. We've had a grassroots campaign from local residents within Cumberland that came out in their hundreds, if not thousands tonight, to tell those opposite, to tell the Labor Party, the very community they're meant to be representing, that they want their voice heard, make an adult section and put the book there. That's a fair compromise. But it's not happening. It's not happening. The petition's been shut down. They've imported people from the Parramatta branch of the Labor Party, the Cumberland branch of the Labor Party, other areas, the Newtown and Ashfield, they brought them in at the detriment of our local community. At what point do we actually listen to the residents and we come to a compromise? At what point do we say, yes, we hear your point of view, and we can all agree to put the books in the adult section? Now, why previously complaints have been brought to me, why does a 2-year-old or 3-year-old that goes and picks up the picture books, and regardless of what they spin over there, whether there is no 2-year-old section or 4-year-old section, it's in the picture books. The picture books cover the sections of 2 and 6. And previous complaints have been about a book called ABC Pride. C is for celebrate. N is for non-binary. G is for gender. P is for pride. This is another book that was complained about.
Christou, just pardon me a minute. Councillor Coleman, please. Councillor Coleman, you are not involved. You are not in the debate, please. If you wish, Councillor, thank you.
T is for trans. Now, T is for trans. Now, all we're saying is, surely everyone can agree that 2-year-olds should not be burdened with these. They will have enough time to ask these questions as they get older. But we have Councillor Coleman over there disrupting my speech right now, not wanting to hear the realities, because it doesn't suit her narrative. She doesn't want to hear. She doesn't. Well, Councillor Coleman, I've made it.
Please put the book down. I will. Councillor Coleman, we know the book. Believe me, I've seen it published many times. No, we don't take questions from the chair. I would like to ask what is the book that you're referring to?
I will, just for clarity, since everyone is asking, in September 2023, I received complaints which I addressed at the time about a similar book, ABC Pride. Now, it goes into explain to 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds, gender neutrality, T is for trans, N is for non-binary. Oh, come on, children, just let kids be kids. At what time do we stop? This was addressed, and I'm sick of hearing. I am sick of hearing that the librarians know best, the educators know best. If everybody knew best, we wouldn't be here tonight, because when I raised the issue, we wouldn't be, in September 2023, we wouldn't be here addressing it tonight. All we're saying is, listen to the residents. Listen to what parents want. Let's find a compromise. You might not, but that's right. There is no compromise with some, because not only is it not good enough for them to put the book back in the adult section, it's got to go in the children's section again, violating the views of the local community. It's not on. We've already had this community marginalised, and I've received death threats for representing their interests. Well, how do you know I haven't? A police? Okay? No. Okay?
Thank you.
Get a hold of yourself.
Thank you.
We're all people. Okay? But unlike but one thing the Labor Party is not asking, they're not asking questions of Councillor Ahmed, who continuously bails when hard questions need to be raised. She wasn't around for the first meeting. She ran for the door. But no one, the vote got up, but no one asked Councillor Ahmed, why'd you bolt for the doors? Never stands for anything, Councillor Ahmed, no. Always takes the easy way out. Yes, Councillor Ahmed, I heard you said you got death threats. So did I, Councillor Ahmed, but that doesn't excuse my responsibility to my community to make hard decisions. And if you can't make that, Councillor Ahmed, go and vacate your seat and let somebody else stand in your position.
Councillor. I have Councillor Saha. Councillor Saha. Councillor Saha, it's 10:30.
I'm speaking against the amendment. You already heard why we are voting against the amendment. The Libraries Australia and the Australian Classification Board has clearly classified this book in junior collection as non-fiction. Why would you do it differently? That's it, and Madam Mayor, I request that this amendment be put.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Saha. I have a motion before me that the amendment be put. All those in favour, please raise your hands high. Is anybody opposed to the amendment being put? If so, raise your hand now. The amendment is to be put. All those in favour of the Garrard-Hughes amendment, please raise your hands distinctly. Councillor Christou, Councillor Garrard, Councillor Hughes, Councillor Sarkis. Is that right? All right. Yeah, that's right. And all those opposed to this amendment, please raise your hand. Councillor Elmore, Councillor Saha, Councillor Coleman, Councillor Faruqi, Councillor Lake, Councillor Wang. Is it Councillor Hammond? Are you abstaining? No, you're opposed. Councillor Hussain, you're abstaining and you understand that if you're in the room, that's opposing. All right. And Councillor Cummings is opposing and Councillor Zeta is opposing. Everyone's asleep. Thank you. I already counted them. All right. The amendment is lost. We're back to the original motion. Does anybody else wish to speak on the original motion? Councillor Elmore.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. I've had my light on for about 2 hours. I finally got the floor. So anyway, I support the rescission. I support the new motion, and I wonder to myself, how did council really get in this position? You know, we appoint the general manager. The general manager appoints the staff. We don't micromanage. Can I be heard without interruptions, please? Can I be heard? Can I be heard without interruption? Anyway, we appoint the general manager. The general manager appoints the staff. We give the general manager direction. We don't micro.
Can you just be quiet for a minute? I'll just wait for these people to exit. Thank you. Please take a note and we'll talk to the police. Thank you, Gallery. I'm trying to finish this tonight. Can I please get on with this? Councillor Elmore, can you please speak?
I finally received a death threat. I felt a bit left out by not receiving a death threat.
Just reminding you that it's 25 to 11, Councillor Elmore.
So anyway, where was I? Anyway, the council appoints a GM. The GM appoints the staff. The GM, and if we got any issues, we raise it to the GM. If this situation happened to me and a member of the public raise this issue with me, I'll send an email to the GM. The GM would probably have it investigated and come back in with a solution, or he may move the book. I don't know what the general manager would have done in this situation. But I don't want to add too much more to this debate because it's been going on for 2 weeks, and I was in North Queensland recently for a family event, and people up there are talking about it. But what the situation is, you know, we've been in the media this for the last 2 weeks, and about a children's library, about a book in the children's library that has been there for almost 5 years. The council staff tell me that it's been borrowed once, and the book is just about to be replaced by another book because it's time's up. And I do appreciate that council staff, council library staff, have been in a difficult situation here, and I thank them for that. Anyway, this council, well, there's one particular council in this place that wants to blow up everything, and there was a complaint, and he complained about this book, and now it's caused a natural embarrassment for our council. We got the right police here tonight, trying to protect the public safety. This is not a council area which I want to live in. When you come to a council meeting, you right police to protect people to attend the council meeting. This council's reputation has been trashed, and now we're in damage control, and we've got to work our way out of this. And I see that Councillor Christou was doubling down during his media conferences, media interviews, and said he's not going to change this. And now he's come up with an amendment that he wants to move the book. So we need to find a way out of this. And I think this motion by the motion we've got before us does that. My biggest concern is about the future of Cumberland Council. I worked in the corporate world, and if you had a company like this, if you had a company in the corporate world like this, your company would have no future. If I was an investor in a large company, and I was looking for a place to set up a new business, I'll be looking at Cumberland Council's record on excluding different demographics from the council area. I wouldn't go near the place. And also feel for some of the people that have moved in here recently. We're having a bit of a change. The property house prices in the city are becoming too expensive. We've got more people moving out this way, more professional people, and that's really good. But that the concern that our reputation has been damaged, and I don't think we'll recover from that damage for quite a while. Just in closing, our residents deserve better than this. We don't need the one book that's been borrowed once and just about replaced to be a national issue, getting a bad reputation and getting attention when we've got other things to do. There's a job deficit around here. We need more jobs. We need more employment. And all we do for 2 weeks is argue about one book in one library, or one book's been borrowed once. So we need to move on and really work in the best interest of council, not politicise ourselves, and not try to promote yourself for the next election.
I have one further speaker before me, Councillor Hughes. Did you still wish to speak?
I do, thank you.
Thank you.
I am fully aware that this is an operational issue, and that is something that Councillor Elmore was just then speaking about and so forth. It is the case, and it was the case, and it had been brought up previously. And again, I can only clarify again and again that the intention was not for it to be banned, but the wording escalated, and it escalated because it wasn't taken as a matter of urgency. Now, if it had been dealt with in that context, we wouldn't end up with where we are today, because it is an operational issue. Things do go not quite as good as hoped. Obviously, it's something that we do need to go directly to the General Manager to, but equally, when you do have an instance that does occur, so in all fairness, the procedure of a meeting, really, what is a matter of urgency? It should be really reconsidered, because sincerely, we wouldn't be where we are now. It would have been dealt with there and then, but it got out of hand.
We don't need to. We've run out of speakers, thank goodness. Well, you're actually not on my list, Councillor Sarkis. So, well, he's still not on my list. All right, thank you. I think it's time for us to put the motion. No, absolutely not.
Right of
all right.
reply.
So the motion moved Councillor Huang, seconded Councillor Faruqi.
Madam Mayor, I do have a right of reply.
Oh, I forgot about the right of reply. Sorry, Councillor Huang. Please have your right of reply.
Thanks,
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. Thanks, Madam Mayor, and thank you to all my colleagues for participating in this important debate. In response to Councillor Christou's comment on compromising, can I just make it clear? We won't compromise on the principle of equality and fairness, nor will we compromise on our society's acceptance of diversity. Cumberland is a successful, inclusive, multicultural community. Around this chamber, we may have our differences, but I hope we are all here to represent the interests of our residents, no matter their sexual orientation, culture, religion, race, age, gender, or disability. Can I once again thank all the speakers tonight? Let's take a stand with our community and vote to reverse this ban. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wong. Now I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour of Councillor Wong? The motion moved Councillor Wong, seconded Councillor Faruqi. Please raise your hands in support if you support it. I have Councillor Garrard, Councillor Hughes, Councillor Zeta, Councillor Cummings, Councillor Elmore, Councillor Saha, Councillor Coleman, Councillor Faruqi, Councillor Lake, Councillor Wong and Councillor Hamid and Councillor Hussain. All those opposed to this motion, Councillor Christou and Councillor Sarkis. Have I included everybody? The motion is carried, everyone. I want to thank you very much for being here tonight. I want to thank you for your patience, and I'm pleased to see that we have a resolution. Councillors, I'm going to take a 5-minute break to allow people who wish to go to leave, and then we will come back and resume our ordinary council business. Thank you.
And you have just seen there that I think kind of falling asleep here. Cumberland City Council, I believe, has just voted to overturn the ban on same-sex parenting books at libraries. Cumberland City Council again. I'll repeat that breaking news. Cumberland City Council has voted to overturn the ban on same-sex parents books at Cumberland Council libraries, I believe. I've been following this for too long. That is, of course, obviously significant. We have seen the debate on this, and yeah, I'll repeat that breaking news. Cumberland City Council has just voted to overturn its ban on same-sex parents' books at Cumberland Council libraries. So that has just happened at a couple of minutes ago. Stay tuned for the latest coverage. You can, of course, go to localelections.com.